will be the conversation with Pastor Mark Burns. Now, it's interesting because he's an ally, I believe, of Donald Trump, and seen amongst the people that he certainly favors Trump, and Trump favors him, according to him. We're going to pick his brain on many things, including his views about genocide in South Africa, and he believes that South Africa should exit BRICS. Okay, more to come later. Let's start with the first issue we have regarding that shootout and the murder of the main suspect, or rather the killing of the main suspect of the murder of Olorato Mongale. Athlenda Mate with me, the SAPS national spokesperson. Welcome to the National Pulse.
Thank you, and to listeners.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's amazing. Often we talk about other issues and then you get these dramatic days like this year. But the real drama, of course, was the loss of life of Olorato Mongale. In this case here, it's a case of the suspected criminals that may have committed the murder, right? But let's get to where we are. I mean, what is this position that has happened today?
As soon as we detected this particular case on Sunday, it had the hallmarks of really a syndicate that is not the first time that it would commit such a deed. So we started investigating. Then we mobilized our teams. And you would have heard that to the build-up of this morning, we had seized and found the vehicle with traces of blood in a workshop, Panel Beta workshop in Durban. And we then proceeded to the suspect's home, where we found the father, who's the owner of the vehicle, the mother, and so on. And we later learned that the mother then called the suspect while we were at the house to warn him that police were looking for him, and that's how he evaded arrest on Wednesday. He should have been arrested on Wednesday already. So we proceeded with investigations, and we followed the suspects, and we followed those that were assisting him to evade arrest. And last night, we then traced him to Amanzimdoti, a block of flats where he was hiding. And we announced our arrival, and he started charging at police, and police fought back. And that's where we find ourselves. But I think what is key is that we have been able to uncover a syndicate that has been targeting women on Roman scams. So they would target women in malls. They literally tail you in a mall, and they approach you on a romance type of, scam situation. They propose to you, and then if you agree to meet them on a second date, that's when they rob you, because there is no, in most of the cases that we are picking up, we've had more than 90 calls since Monday when we published the number of the lead investigator, 90 calls from all over the country. We are sitting and analyzing various dockets, and we are seeing, okay, there's a similarity here. I mean, just this morning, we also picked up another case in Bloemfontein in Park Road, where a woman also positively identified them with the pictures that have been circulating. We also had another one in Kagisoning police station in Bloemfontein as well. And Sunnyside, there's just a number of cases that we are picking up. But our main goal, Ashraf, was to put a stop to what this syndicate has been doing, which is terrorizing women from all walks of life and basically robbing them. Unfortunately, Olorato did not make it, is one of those that did not make it. But we are also piecing evidence together whether some of the bodies that were of women that were picked up on the side of the road are linked to them.
Okay. And I mean, in terms of that, were you aware, when I say you, your department, were you at all aware, like even as late as a week ago, that there was a syndicate operating in that region?
Absolutely not. You know what? They move in various provinces. And like we know now, they would operate in the Free State, between Free State and Gauteng and so on. But immediately when this case came to our attention, we saw that something bigger was coming with how she was dumped and their modus operandi. I mean, you can't pick up a person at 3 o'clock. By 10 to 5, you have already killed and dumped her body. and so on. And that is why we mobilized maximum resources on this case, because we could detect that there could be more victims, and we wanted to stop this particular syndicate. But of interest is that we previously arrested Bongani Mthimkhulu and Phila Makhanya. So Phila Makhanya is the main suspect that was actually chatting up Olorato, and he's the main suspect that was killed this morning. We arrested them on the 20th of April in the Brakpan area when a vigilant police officer during his patrols noticed a suspicious-looking VW Polo, same Polo, but with different number plates. And he stopped and he found that they had actually kidnapped a woman and robbed her. He immediately placed them under arrest. They appeared in court on the 22nd of April, and on the 26th they were out on bail. And the same vehicle that we had been searching for, we had actually impounded it, but they got their lawyers to get a court order against the SAPS to actually take back this car. But at that time, the car was fitted with its original number plate and so on. So we are quite grateful to the team that has been hard at work. I think with this latest action, more women have been saved. And we were able to put a stop to all that is happening. And I'm told there may be a suspect that may have handed himself over in Durban. So I'm just waiting for a comprehensive report from one of our investigators that one of the suspects that we are looking for has voluntarily handed himself over, and he's willing to confess. So we are hoping for the best.
And in terms of the person who shot at the police, and then, of course, in response, he was then killed, right? How much of shooting actually took place? Are you able to tell us?
Well, that's going into too much detail. We don't give out police operations, but I mean, if police announce their arrival, and that's what we usually do, and say, listen, surrender, we are here, your time is over, and you charge at police. Firstly, the police will act to defend the community that they serve and protect, and then secondly, they have to defend themselves. So we are having quite a lot of incidents where our police officers die in the line of duty. So first, we look at we put the safety and security of our communities, and secondly, we come second in terms of that. So I can't really go into that particular operation, but we can confirm that the suspect that was shot and killed during the early hours of this morning is the main suspect, who was calling himself John. And he would go around with the syndicate targeting women, especially young women that look financially stable, working women. No, if you're not working, you're not, clearly you're not that type or sort of. So they were very focused, or they were very determined, and they knew what they wanted. So when they come for you, it's not that they like you or want to fall in love with you. No, they knew they had a target, and the target is and the motive is to rob you.
Okay, and that's the important part, that the motive actually is a financial one in terms of robbing, as opposed to killing someone, right? I mean, do you know, and I understand you may be able to tell us some things and not others, do you know what, in this case, let's say, what went wrong regarding the position of a person who's now died with regard to Olorato Mongale?
Look, those are some of the answers that we are looking for, to say what was different with Olorato, because there is a case that we have picked up where one of the women who is a victim came forward and said, actually, I met with these guys on the 22nd of May in Bloemfontein. I was the victim. They picked me up. So the same modus operandi. They would pick you up. They demand to pick you up. And they took her, and they stopped in the middle of nowhere, and they said, give us money. And she went as far as opening her banking app and saying, listen, I don't have money. So in that instance, what she's alleging that they did is that this John character actually took out 100 Rand from his pocket and said, go back home.
Yeah, wow.
So you ask yourself then, in the Oloratu case, what happened? And these are the answers that we are looking for as to what has happened. But you will recall that you may have heard that we on the 8th of May in Sandton, we picked up same modus operandi, a body of a woman in the early hours of the morning, where she too was just thrown on the side of the road. So we are trying to link those two cases to check whether we were dealing, with the same syndicate and so on. And that's why it's important to call on Bongani Mtimkulu, who is still out there, to hand himself over, because we need the answers. We need to know what exactly happened. But our teams are on the ground. Our investigators are analyzing each and every docket to piece together information. And I think at the right time, we will then brief the nation on what we have found. Because actually, just this morning, the provincial commissioner confirmed that in his possession, in this deceased suspect's possession, there were more than 25 smart ID cards, mostly belonging to women. So we are also sitting down as a team to check who these women are. Are they alive? Are they deceased? Have they been reported missing? So it will be a lengthy and comprehensive investigation that we're not going to rush. But we are quite happy that we were able to send a strong message out there to say you cannot do as you please. And I think it comes at a time when the country is really intensifying its fight against gender-based violence. And we're sending out a strong message out there to say enough is enough. And with taking in the parents into custody, it was saying parents also need to take accountability. Each and everyone who is an accomplice to crime needs to account.
Well, let's leave it at that. Lots to consider. And I'm sure that you're going to be kept busy, as the SAPS will be, because by the very nature of it, it's not just one incident, as we now know, but there's a series. I mean, it's an entire syndicate. It's a business that targets women who are relatively wealthy, and clearly there's a plan in place there, and we wonder how long this has been going on if we find out those many ID books. So, Glenda Mati, appreciate your time, the SAPS national spokesperson. But talking about this horrific story, I suppose, well, horrific was, of course, the killing of Oloratu Mongale, but today we then find that the main suspect, called John, when they sort of surrounded him or his area where he lived in Amanzimtoti, he actually shot at them, and then they were forced to kill him. More to come here on the National Pulse, but certainly your opinions matter. So let's get a sense of what is it that you want to raise here. You're on the Pulse, aren't you?
Do you want to study towards a tertiary qualification but need a flexible study schedule? Stadio Higher Education's distance learning qualifications offer just that. Our distance learning support is designed for your success. 2025 applications to Stadio's range of high-quality, affordable qualifications are now open. Distance learning qualifications are available in law, administration and management, commerce, teacher education, policing, law enforcement, humanities, and information technology. Visit stadio.ac.za and register today. Stadio, a new vision in higher education.
Welcome back to the sun-drenched shores of St. Marie, where the beaches are beautiful and the murders are mysterious. It's Death in Paradise Season 7. New cases, quirky suspects, and D.I. Jack Mooney, who's still figuring out the island and how to drink coconut water gracefully. Catch the show where paradise meets puzzling crime, because even in paradise, someone always has a secret. Death in Paradise Season 7, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. S3, open up.
EFC is live this Thursday. The indestructible champion Zakir Badat descends from the wild mountains to defend his welterweight title against Nigeria's electrifying kickboxing champion Segun Ogunaiki. Plus, Timnan Lawuli takes on Sibusiso Suvandila, and undefeated Kevin Pretorius steps up to challenge Oswaldo Benedito. EFC 124 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Extraordinary doesn't just happen. It's built brick by digital brick. With every connection, every innovation, every leap forward. A cloud that scales with your vision. Security that earns your trust. AI that empowers smarter decisions. IoT that connects what truly matters. Connectivity that bridges every gap. We're not just building technology, we're building the future of South Africa. Stronger businesses, thriving communities, a nation connected, empowered, and ready to lead. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Start your journey at vodacombusiness.co.za. Vodacom Business. Further together.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So, when we talk about South Africa and the problems we have around climate change, what about other countries in the world? As part of our Global Watch today, let's talk about this. Global temperatures are expected to continue at or near record levels for the next 5 years at least. That's according to the World Meteorological Organization. Now, the UK's Met Office, which provided analysis for the report, said it is a sign that the planet is, and this is, I quote, profoundly ill. The BBC News climate editor Justin Rowlett filed this report.
The bank holiday weekend brought a change in the weather, with rain across much of the country. But it follows the driest spring for more than 60 years here in the UK. And the entire world should prepare for more hot weather in the years to come. Just look at the odds. The World Meteorological Organization is predicting there is a 4 in 5 chance, 80%, that at least one of the next 5 years will be the hottest on record. And it says there is a 7 in 10 chance, 70%, that the average temperature over the next 5 years will be more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels.
L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
1.5 degrees was the famous target to limit global warming the world agreed to try and aim for at the UN Climate Conference in Paris a decade ago. The Paris Agreement refers to a 20-year, not a 5-year average, but the direction of travel is clear.
Even with the current warming that we've seen, we're getting more frequent and intense heat waves, more extreme rainfall events, more devastating droughts. Our oceans are warming, sea ice and land ice are melting, and sea levels are rising. So we will see all of those being exacerbated as the global temperatures continue to rise.
UK farmers are already warning this year's exceptionally dry spring will likely reduce crop yields. Last spring, the worry was the impact of too much rain. And remember, scientists say every fraction of a degree of warming that can be avoided means fewer risks and less damage for us all. Justin Rowlett, BBC News.
Okay, so comment on that if you wish to comment on just global warming and, further evidence of that, most welcome. To call in is 086 000 2032, but I'll take some of your WhatsApps right away, 0614 104 107. Right, here we are.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Mr. Suleiman. 2 quick issues, Ashraf. 1. Body corporates are using fraudulent attorneys to inflate levy bills. I'm sure millions are battling. What can we do about this? Number 2.
Yesterday, heading in list.
Pension money. Old age was paid on the 1st. Why is it moved to 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th? Who is going to give us food on those days? Thank you. Bye.
Okay, I'm trying to get the gist of what you're really trying to say, but besides, getting paid late, what's the essence of that story? Okay, you've raised it. Maybe somebody knows better. They will.
Hi, Dr. Ashraf. Dr. Ashraf, it is said there is case of this child, 2 years old, murdered, his body buried in a shallow grave, and the perpetrators is the mother and the Sangoma. What have we become in this country? What have we become, Dr. Ashraf?
Well, listen, sadly, that's these type of murders and violence has been ongoing for a very, very long time. So it's not like it's just a one-day thing. And what's sad is that it's normalized in our society, and that's really, really horrific. Okay, here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, the question we ask, when will be the president think of deploying soldiers or the military men in the streets of South Africa? Can't he see, or can't they see that the situation is becoming worse and worse now? As a former soldiers, we used to be deployed even when things will start to be cropping out. But we don't know what the government is thinking about the situation in South Africa. Thanks, Ashraf. Here.
Okay. I think generally government doesn't want to use the Defence Force for, reasons around civil society and human rights, because then you can start using it for just about everything. But there could be a time when you have to. I mean, the call last week, not last week, a few days ago with, who did I chat to? William Gumede about the gang violence in the Cape Flats, and he's like, bring in the army.
Mr. Ashraf Garda, you are speaking to Tsepo from Thokoza. Mr. Garda, Mr. President Ramaphosa must give Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, KZ Commissioner of Police, the highest honor, isithalandwe. Because you know what, that man, when he speaks in front of the camera, even the hardest criminal, they become frightening. Because that man, when he speaks, mean business. Unlike Police of Police Mgunu and Masimula, when they speak as if they're speaking with the children at the crash or at the church, Sunday school church. When you are a cop in this country, when you speak in front of the camera, the highest criminals, they must get frightening. I remember George Fivers. Thank you.
Okay, you said you had a lot to say about that, and I wonder, I'm sure we'll get reaction because, here's the point. The fact that you have these syndicates suggests that they believe they can get away with it. That's really the issue, isn't it? Let's get the news headlines. It's just gone 3:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. And the news headlines: a former councillor in the Okahlamba municipality at Bergville in KwaZulu-Natal has been sentenced to life imprisonment after the Ladysmith Regional Court found him guilty of murdering his fiancée and their 3 children. There's been a marginal increase in the number of South African businesses and households accessing credit, and the World Food Programme has accused the paramilitary forces in Sudan's civil war of repeatedly shelling its warehouses in the besieged city of El Fasher. Have an update for us at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria has a stationary vehicle near the Garsfontein Road exit. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and Main Road northbound in Bryanston has delays towards Robin Road. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle before the M41 gateway exit. Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park, and the N3 eastbound has a stationary truck reported after Cliffdale. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound queuing on Plattekloof Hill. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and Stellenbosch Till Road eastbound in Kuilsrivier is slow moving at Nooiensfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
To me, because it's a Friday, there's lots of things we can talk about, but my mind is on what you're wearing.
Yeah.
So tell me about your sports jersey, your sports top today.
So today I am all things cricket. I'm wearing the Proteas men jersey, and I am specifically wearing this one because of this, Ashraf. Because of this particular sponsor. Because they just came on board.
I mustn't mention it because that is what you say. You can mention it. Yeah.
Okay, it's Casa Laga because they've just come on board with as a sponsor for the Proteas, but I'm wearing it today because the Proteas are leaving today.
Okay.
For the World Championship final. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And actually Casa Laga along with Cricket South Africa held a farewell for the Proteas today. They're currently on their way to the airport, and I'm just like, you know what, why not? For all time's sake.
In solidarity.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Why are you not with them today, just by the way?
Why am I not with them?
Yeah.
I would have loved to be with them, actually, but I have to be here.
Okay, I was going to say get your priorities right, but anyway. Okay, so what date is that final, by the way?
Again?
This one-off final.
I will give it to you.
I think the second week of June. Okay, yeah, at Lord's, that I know,
yes.
right? Anybody going for that game, right? All right, what else?
Well, Cricket South Africa CEO Puleti Moseki has reaffirmed the Federation's full support behind Kagiso Rabada as the Proteas prepare to leave for the ICC Test Championship final against Australia at Lord's. Rabada, who returns to the squad following a positive drug test, was part of a special farewell event hosted by CSA and sponsor Casa Laga this afternoon. And Moseki says that the fast bowler shouldn't be judged on one mistake and deserves the backing of the nation.
No, I think that was crucial and that was given for us. You know, he's our player, he's a very important player, but more than anything else, he's a very young man who's done a lot for the country. So just because of that misstep, it was very important that you can't throw a player to the wolves purely because of that. You know, and it is something that obviously is addressed, and he has basically spoken to the country, as you correctly highlighted. So support was basically non-negotiable, and we'll continue supporting whether KG or any of our players to ensure that basically we protect them from this environment. It's a very, very tough environment. You know, they're representing the country, so there's always a lot of pressure there. So the least that we can do as a federation is to ensure that they know that they've got the full support of everyone. You know, not just even in Cricket South Africa, but I think the country as a whole.
Right, the test final is from the 11th to the 15th of June. Meanwhile, Proteas woman psychologist Dr. Kokejo Tsebe has shed light on what it takes to get a team ready for a major tournament like the Cricket World Cup and to actually win it. Dr. Tsebe is currently on the books of Cricket South Africa and most recently worked with the Proteas women on their tour of Sri Lanka as they prepare for the global showpiece taking place in India later this year. One of the major tasks of the team psychologist is to get the players believing in themselves even when things are not going their way, and she says she works in collaboration with other members of the backroom staff to achieve this goal.
What actually also helps is the role of other colleagues like your analysts, coaches, who works together to actually do reflections and feedback on how they got it wrong or how they can do it better sometimes. And in terms of the psyche, reflections, you know, of how it felt then, how are they feeling at the moment in comparison to how they felt, suppose, on the game they lost. Reflections and being aware of emotions can be quite helpful, especially to keep going and build the momentum of a winning streak.
Moving on to rugby, Stormers chief John Dobson and speedster Sabelo Senatla believe something special is building within the team as they gear up for the URC quarterfinal clash against Glasgow Warriors tonight. The Cape side, who won the inaugural title in 2022, are chasing a third straight appearance despite a tough season marked by key injuries. They face a confident Glasgow side at a venue that the Stormers have never won and suffered playoff heartbreak last year, and that's the Scotstoun Stadium. Meanwhile, Glasgow Warriors are sweating over the fitness of Hugh Jones for the British and Irish Lions tour. This is despite the centre's ongoing Achilles tendon struggles. Now, Jones, who returned to action earlier this month after a long layoff, was originally named to start today's Vodacom URC quarterfinal against the Stormers, but was withdrawn after the injury flared up again in training. And then in football, Mamelodi Sundowns head coach Miguel Cardoso and star attacker Lucas Ribeiro Costa are named the Betway Premiership Coach and Player of the Month for the month of May. This marks the third time this season that both Cardoso and Costa have claimed the monthly honours, a testament to their consistency and contribution to Sundowns' successful Betway Premiership season. In motorsport, McLaren's Lando Norris headed Red Bull's Max Verstappen in first practice
at the Spanish Grand Prix. Norris was 0.367 seconds quicker than Verstappen as teams come to terms with new front wings forced upon them by a rule change for this race. Ferrari's Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were third and fourth. And finally, in tennis, Chen Wenzheng needed 1 hour and 26 minutes to dispatch 18-year-old Victoria Mboko 6-3 and 6-4 at the Roland Garros third round, while Arina Sabalenka cruised past Olga Danilovic 6-2 and 6-3 to progress to her third consecutive fourth round of the Roland Garros.
I'm just thinking, of all the sports in the world, am I right in saying motor racing is the one that changes its rules like virtually every week?
Right.
Like it's every week.
There's always something. But I guess you can just say maybe it's one sport that evolves quicker than usual because you can see that maybe this is not working. Let's try and change things.
It's a fast sport. Okay, got that.
All right. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI, CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
The Copper Queens and the Zebras want to test each other's strength. This is not just an international friendly, they are gearing up for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Witness the thrilling battle between Zambia and Botswana on Saturday 31 May at 3 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Welcome back to the sun-drenched shores of Sainte Marie, where the beaches are beautiful and the murders are mysterious. It's Death in Paradise Season 7. New cases, quirky suspects, and D.I. Jack Mooney, who's still figuring out the island and how to drink coconut water gracefully. Catch the show where paradise meets puzzling crime, because even in paradise, someone always has a secret. Death in Paradise Season 7, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 28 May. S3, open up.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, I did make the point. I did tell you this earlier. We're going to chat to Pastor Mark Burns, who's an American. He's in South Africa. He's been spoken about as being one of President Donald Trump's most trusted evangelical advisors. Now, what does that mean? I'm going to certainly pick his brain about that. We'll get to him pretty shortly, but just comment about Rabada.
Good day, Ashraf. Lunga, Western Cape. Hope you're well. Awesome show as usual. Just listening to the sports and the highlights with regards to Rabada. Just wanted to find out. I mean, you know, they talk about protecting the player. It's a high-strung environment, etc., etc. Who's responsible for protecting him because he took drugs? And yes, it's not performance-enhancing drugs, so it's not in relation to his commitment to the sport. He hasn't tarnished that. My question is, what kind of contracts do the South African representatives have in their capacity as people or sportsmen who represent the country? Because if it was a corporate kind of environment or something like that, there would probably be a morality clause and they would have contravened it. Just something to...
Well, you certainly got us thinking very heavily on a Friday afternoon. I hear you. I don't know what they have in their contract. And you are right, there's a difference between performance enhancing and recreational, which is still wrong anyway. I think, well, of course, he was suspended, first of all, so let's get that right. If it was performance-enhancing, it would be another story completely, intentional or unintentional. I think I'm just thinking about footballers like Paul Pogba, like you're out for over a year and a half or something like that. That would be the end of his story. So maybe that's his savior at the moment. But what their contracts say, I don't know. And you may be right to say, do we judge sportsmen who are in employment in sport differently to people who are employed in other fields? Is the morality very different?
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to my fellow listeners. My brother, I hear a lot of people are saying what happened in the Oval Office that was embarrassing to the country. And I suggest that as a country, we should not be feeling like we have been embarrassed. Mr. Ramaphosa was not invited there.
He wasn't invited there in the Oval Office. We'll talk about that, by the way, to my guest shortly. I did say he's coming now. He's running a few minutes late, Pastor Mark Burns, so we'll get to him soon, right? Okay, maybe just one more we're going to play regarding Floyd Shivambu that I'll play right now.
Afternoon, Ashraf, Secretary General Mkondo Sisi. What's going on there? What's going on there? Brief us. What's going on there? Shivambu, what's going on there with Zuma there? Coming from Brixton.
Well, listen, as far as I know, there's been some fake stories. Do you really believe those stories that we saw on Twitter yesterday? But beyond that, he gave a full interview 2 days ago. Really, I think he's on side. The fake stories are the fake stories. But then, 24 hours is a long time in politics, isn't it? Well, it is, I suppose, when it comes to politics in the George region. We'll talk about developing stories there right after this.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Now, the George councillor is Chantal Kidd, who was the MMC for planning in a coalition municipal government led by the DA, and the leading advocate in the council for transparency around the investigations into that horrific story of the George building, remember, which claimed 34 lives just over a year ago. But when the council met to table the first of two investigations into the disaster, confidentially, that is, without any media as well, the DA caucus in the coalition decided that it was too risky to allow the councillor, as in Chantal Kidd, to speak. So there's huge implications of that, and certainly the future of the Good Party in that coalition. Because of that, Brett Herron is the Secretary General of the Good Party. Brett, appreciate your time, and thanks for connecting on the National Pulse once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So tell us more. We all know about the George building collapse and the losses of life there, 34 people, right? Tell me more about this, meeting and this confidential meeting and therefore the future of your party in that coalition.
Well, I think we'll start the DA-led coalition, or the DA invited us into that coalition a couple of months ago on the basis that, as they put it, that we had councillors with excellent capacity. Because they didn't need us. They had a one-seat majority with the support of the ACDP. But they wanted us to take up this planning portfolio to strengthen their government. And our party actually has a policy where we don't seek out coalitions. We will enter them where we're needed. In other words, where no party can govern without a government can't be formed without us. But we agreed to join the George coalition, and we agreed on the basis that we would operate in the coalition as the DA operates in the GNU, with freedom to disagree when there's an item that we don't agree on. But this afternoon or earlier today, the George Council was sitting, and it had on the confidential part of the agenda a investigation report into the collapse of the George building. And our councillor Chantal Kidd has been a champion in George and across the province for transparency around what happened to this building, how the 34 people end up losing their lives, how did the building collapse. And the DA used their majority in the coalition to silence her. They denied us the right to speak on the item, even though she is the MMC for planning. Mm-hmm. And it's a natural progression or logical extension that she would speak on the item, even if she's not the only one from the coalition government speaking on it. And I spent most of Wednesday trying to persuade the provincial leadership of the DA in the Western Cape to intervene and to make sure that we were allowed to speak. I don't think it's an unreasonable request. First of all, as a coalition partner, and also because she's the NMC for planning. And they flatly refused. They denied her the right to speak on the item. And we took a decision as a party to withdraw from that coalition.
But why? What are the reasons given? I mean, is it usual or unusual in a case like this, where this type of councillor would be prevented from actually being part of this conversation?
I think it's highly unusual. I think the council rules across the country mostly allow the executive mayor of every municipality to speak on any item and to table any item. But in this particular case, there's a second speaker from the coalition government. And the second speaker would usually be the mayoral committee member responsible for their portfolio. And for the DA caucus to simply use their majority in the coalition, even though the coalition agreement doesn't work on a majority vote, it actually works on consensus. And this document was drafted by the DA. But they ignored consensus, and they said the joint coalition has made a decision that only the mayor and the deputy mayor, who both happen to be from the DA, will speak on the item, and I think, refused a rather reasonable and rational request.
And I mean, do you read more into that? Because the end goal of all of that is your party is not part of that coalition. So what do you read into this?
Well, I think there's two things. First of all, that there's a lesson in being in coalition with the DA, and we are in coalition with them also in another municipality in the Western Cape. And that is that they prepare really good coalition agreements, but unless they're willing to co-govern in the spirit of those agreements are really worth nothing, because they simply just use their majority, despite the agreement saying that decisions will be made on a consensus basis, to override us because they outnumbered us. So they don't govern in the spirit that you would expect in a coalition where you co-govern. Secondly, and maybe more importantly, is that the DA seems to have gone to great lengths, unreasonable, irrational lengths, to silence us on an issue that we've been quite vocal about. And it almost leads us to question as whether the DA has got something to hide when it comes to this George building that collapsed. Because the provincial government, led by the DA, conducted their own investigation. They undertook to release the findings of that investigation. And then ultimately, when the investigation was completed, the Premier said, no, he's not releasing the findings, he's just handing it to the police. And similarly, George, this report is on a confidential part of the agenda, so the public cannot be told what is in that report. The victims' families cannot be told what's in that report, and similarly, they don't want to release the findings to the public. So there is something. It appears that there's something that the DA is trying to hide from the public.
Well, I certainly want to get to where do we go from here, and we'll do that right after this.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. Hashtag your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, let's conclude the conversation with Brett Herron regarding the future of the Good Party within the coalition in George. In fact, at this point in time, this DA-led coalition, the Good Party are out of it, right? Brett, you made the point, and I'm using, these are my words, you smell a rat regarding the DA's position regarding your councillor.
I do. Look, I mean, we smell a rat regarding the DA's position on the collapse of this building in George. The way that they've treated our councillor in the coalition in George is irrational and unreasonable. I really cannot, and I haven't been persuaded by any of our interactions with the DA about allowing her to speak. I haven't been persuaded that there's a reasonable or rational argument for why she should not speak. They've just simply said the Joint Caucus took a decision, and that decision is final and binding. And so that is I think, an unreasonable position to adopt in a co-governing situation. Okay. In the provincial government, we have a similar case where, as I said, the Premier is not willing to release findings. And I serve on the committee that interrogated the department, and in fact, the mayor of George was there. And that our committee took a resolution that we want to receive a copy of the legal advice that the Premier relies on to share these findings with the public.
And just the last thing, so you're out of that coalition. What would be the implications of the running of that coalition without the Good Party?
Well, I think the DA, not only wanted us, as they said, for our capacity, but they have a very slim, they have a majority of one, and that is with the ACDP in their coalition. So we were able to add another 3 to their majority and make it a much more comfortable majority when they've got councillors who are ill or who may be thinking of jumping ship. So they have a precarious majority in George of 1, and that's that's how they will choose to govern, unless they can find another partner to join them, and who's willing to be silenced and really be decorative and not really co-governing.
Okay, but the last thing, and I'll go back to your position, with your councillor now effectively not part of the governance of that region, what are the implications in terms of, her powers? What more can she do now?
Well, to be frank, she was more effective in championing this issue around the George collapsed building when we were in opposition. As soon as we moved into that coalition government, the DA tried to constrain everything she did. She wanted to do site visits at other building sites with the Director for Planning and Building Control officers to make sure that these other sites and other building projects were being done properly. And she was prevented from doing that. She issued a statement calling for these reports to be made public. The DA asked us to retract that statement. We refused to do so. So in the opposition benches, she will continue to champion this issue and other issues without the constraints that the DA have attempted to place on her and her 2 colleagues in that council.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Appreciate your time. Lots of, in fact, there's so many questions that comes out of this conversation with Brad Herron from the Good Party, the Secretary General. What we do know is that the George councillor from the Good Party, Chantal Kidd, who's been involved in planning and effectively playing a huge role in highlighting the problems around that George building collapse. Well, she was effectively prevented from being part of a investigation today that took place with just 2 DA leaders who ran the overall council. They were very clear she cannot be part of it. As a result of all of that and more, the Good Party decided, okay, that's it. They can't work with them effectively in the George region, so their region, so she's out. They've withdrawn as part of the coalition, and now the DA has a majority of 1, a flimsy majority at that.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
And we are streaming live, so you can listen to us, well across the board, as you heard, YouTube, and then watch us visually too, but also listen to the podcast as well, or re-listen to the podcast. So re-listen and share them. Go to sfm.coza. Under podcast, you'll find them all the different categories, and they are certainly there. The issues of crime will not go away, and therefore conversations around crime will not go away.
Security is a priority of service delivery of the country. South Africa must prioritize security. Security in a sense that all borders must be closed against illegal foreigners to bypass the borders. So in this case, South Africa is very, very weak in borders, and we are victims of crime and everything. My name is Thank you.
Well, there's no question that we have huge crime. Here's a comment about crime as well.
Ashraf, JJ Express. The police are really missing the point. There was no syndicate, only serial killers. The syndicate has got many people in different places. These guys were going around robbing and killing. They were serious serial killers, not syndicate.
But I mean, you can be both. You can be a serial killer and you can be a serial killer that's part of a syndicate. Because the point is, in this case, what they understand is the modus operandi, the bottom line was not to kill, but actually to rob people. Therefore, they will identify fairly reasonably wealthy women that they befriend, and then maybe on the second date rob them. Something obviously went wrong this time round. So you really can be both.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Kaya from Cape Town. Hey, I want to raise an issue here. We've got a problem in Ward 16, Elundini municipality, in Nanahu. There, people are getting injured. People are getting sick. They call ambulances. Ambulances, they don't arrive. Can please anyone from the government attend to that situation? It's a bad situation. It's a serious situation. Please.
Well, it certainly is. And here's another that speaks about something very similar.
Good evening, Ashraf, and afternoon. Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon, Ashraf, I think maybe the biggest culprit or the biggest issue in South Africa, as much as we can say it's policing, we can also pin it back to our courts, the Magistrates Court and the NPA. I remember in the words of our former Minister of Police, about how they go out of their way, they look for a suspect for 5 to 6 months to 7 months, and then they arrest them. After arresting that person gets out on bail of 5,000. Obviously, that person is going to be on the run again. Even with these guys, they were released easily on bail, and they were able to continue doing it because they knew that they will not honor their bail agreement, you see. So maybe that needs to be relooked. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think, you see, that's the other thing, that some of the people were out on bail, like a few months, and that's it. Sure. They already made the point this morning they want to tighten up the entire old bail agreement story, which I think many people would say yes to that, isn't it? Let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Former Ukhahlamba councillor sentenced to life imprisonment, and executives of Limpopo government bus company suspended. For SAFM News, I am Ondilambana, and a very good afternoon. A former councillor in the Ukhahlamba municipality in Bergville in KwaZulu-Natal has been sentenced to life imprisonment after the Ladysmith Regional Court found him guilty of murdering his fiancée and their 3 children. 48-year-old Michael Buthelezi was a DA councillor when there was a fire at his home in the Bethany area near Bergville in October 2023. The blaze claimed the lives of his fiancée Kombosile Khoza and their 3 children. The court heard that Buthelezi threatened to burn Khoza to death 2 weeks earlier. KwaZulu-Natal NPA spokesperson Natasha Ramkinson-Kara.
Buthelezi was sentenced to a term of life imprisonment for each of the 4 counts of murder, 5 years imprisonment for the arson, and 5 years imprisonment for each of the 2 counts of defeating. He will serve an effective term of life imprisonment, and he was declared unfit to possess a firearm.
There's been a marginal increase in the number of South African businesses and households accessing credit. Private sector credit numbers released by the Reserve Bank edged up by 3.6% year-on-year in April, following a 3.4% increase in the previous month. This marked the highest growth since September of last year. Yesterday, the Reserve Bank cut the repo rate by 25 basis points to 7.25%. The current lower interest rate environment and improved confidence in the local economy have encouraged borrowing. Executives, including the CEO of the Limpopo government-owned bus company Great North Transport, have been suspended with immediate effect. The decision was taken by a board of directors in a meeting held in Polokwane after management failed to pay workers' medical aid contributions and pension contributions for 6 months. The money was, however, deducted from the workers' salaries. Economic Development Department spokesperson Patrick Munkwe.
The resolution was taken in response to serious concerns related to financial governance, operational delivery, as well as executive accountability. During this period, the board is engaging the shareholder leader to provide strategic and operational support, including the secondment of interim leadership resources to ensure the continued delivery of essential public transport services.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has expressed deep sadness at the passing of theologian, freedom fighter and human rights activist Dean Chenwani Farisani. Farisani died after an illness at the age of 76. Farisani was an ANC MP, MEC for government departments and Speaker of the legislature between 1994 and 2009. Rudzani Chibase reports.
President Ramaphosa has offered his condolences to the family, friends and comrades of the deceased Farisani. Farisani was the co-founder of Black Evangelic Youth Organization in 1970. A Lutheran church priest, Farisani fought apartheid from the pulpit and was arrested for his activism in the Black Consciousness Movement and the Black People's Convention. He was close associate of Steve Biko. President Ramaphosa has said that Farisani conveyed love for humanity and fearlessly fought for freedom. Rudzani Chibase, SABC News, Polokwane.
The World Food Programme has accused paramilitary forces in Sudan's civil war of repeatedly shelling its warehouses in the besieged city of El Fasher. More than 500 civilians have been killed and tens of thousands displaced as a result of fighting in the besieged capital of the North Darfur region. The BBC's Anne Soyhas has more details.
The World Food Programme has condemned the repeated targeting of its premises in El Fasher. The agency's staff were unharmed in the attack. Aid groups are rushing to stock up on supplies ahead of the rainy season when roads get cut off. Community volunteers in El Fasher have warned that the living conditions are disastrous. Markets are mostly empty and food prices have skyrocketed. A sack of the staple millet is going for $1,000. Fighting has intensified in recent weeks as RSF seeks to overrun the only city in Darfur still under the army's control.
Recapping the top story, a former councillor in the Okahlamba municipality at Bergville in KwaZulu-Natal has been sentenced to life imprisonment after the Ladysmith Regional Court found him guilty of murdering his fiancée and their 3 children. I am Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Proteas ready to shine in ICC Test Championship showdown. Stormers ready for tough URC quarterfinal tests against Glasgow Warriors, and Saskok left with 2 weeks for 2036 Olympic Games bid. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria has a crash before Rigel Avenue. The N3 southbound in Lindbergh Park has a crash near Marlborough Drive. The N1 northbound in Midrand, a crash before New Road. And Malibongwe Drive westbound in Sharon Lee, slow moving at Mahogany Street. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle. That's just before the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The N3 eastbound has a stationary truck after Cliffdale, and the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale. In Cape Town, Strand Road eastbound in Stickland is slow moving. That's towards the R300 highway. Military Road in Steenberg has a crash at Coniston Avenue, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
EFC is live this Thursday. The indestructible champion Zakir Badat descends from the Wild Mountains to defend his welterweight title against Nigeria's electrifying kickboxing champion Segun Ogunaiki. Plus, Timnan Lawuli takes on Sibusiso Suvendila, and undefeated Kevin Pretorius steps up to challenge Oswaldo Benedito. EFC 124 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Hey Feel Good fam, we've got a new WhatsApp number. You know we love hearing from you, so save this: 063 036 9649. Send us your shout-outs, voice notes, or just check in like you always do. Same good vibes, just a fresh new line. That's 063 036 9649. Let's feel good together, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you as we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity. We bring you rich conversations and the vibrant sounds of Africa. Music that moves the soul. This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So this being a Friday, we have a fireside chat, and my guest today is Shakes Mashaba. In the meantime, we'll chat pretty shortly. I know it's a bit delayed with Pastor Mark Burns, this American faith leader who I understand is a friend, ally, supporter, evangelical supporter of the American President Donald Trump. So we'll get his thoughts on some of the other issues, some of the issues in the USA and in South Africa pretty shortly. In the meantime, there are other developments, one around the National School Nutrition Program in the KZN region. We understand that the National School Nutrition Program in that region has expressed deep concern and disappointment over the KZN Department of Education's repeated failure to pay service providers on time. That does have implications, isn't it? Not just to the service providers. We know that. Lindani Matiwane is the National School Nutrition Program chairperson for the KZN region. Appreciate your time, Lindani, on the National Pulse.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so why have service providers not been paid on time?
It's a $1 million question. We do not really know and understand. It's month end. Anyone and everyone has been paid. We were expecting to be paid as well because we have done our duties, but we haven't, unfortunately.
So give me a sense of the gravity of the problem, because, you know, how many service providers, how late, and how much money involved in this?
I would say in Newcastle, Majuba district, there were only 6 service providers being paid. Umkungundlovu, only 10 service providers being paid. In Umlazi, it's only 3 that were paid. So that's how serious the situation is.
All right, but tell me how many are paid. How many have not been paid?
Like I've said, that Umlazi, it's only 3. In Umlazi, you have got about 220 suppliers. And so as Mkungundlovu.
Okay.
And we have about 90 in Majuba. Okay. So the rest of the province haven't been paid.
All right.
So I would say to you, it's like about 98% that were not paid.
All right. So when they're not paid, how long a delay does it have before they do get paid?
We are speaking of April payments as it is right now. So we're expecting April. That will be the latest, but some are still expecting March payment, and so some, quite a few, are still expecting February, March, and April.
All right. Now let's get to the other issue. One is like the business of providing nutrition programs as service providers, and if they don't get paid, they have difficulty running and staying afloat. The other is the impact it has on the actual schools and school learners who require the nutrition programs, right? So what is the impact?
It's very scary, it's a critical situation. As you would understand the fact that we buy first just before we deliver. There is no one who's giving us any goods on credit, and we are not even sure of how we're going to be able to source out the goods this weekend to deliver on Monday. We are really we are not sure. I've seen that the department has released some media statement stating there were some issues with the system, technical issues with the system. That seems to be happening only if they must pay us. The glitches have never occurred to them, and seriously, I do not know how to engage on this issue anymore.
So, what impact is it going to have on the actual learners that needs the foods? I mean, do they know? Are they aware? The families aware? And what do you think may play out? Because even like a 1 week delay could be catastrophic, isn't it?
Even 1 day, to be quite honest, between you and me, some of these learners, that meal, it's the only decent meal that they are guaranteed on the day. So a day missed, it's quite a lot. Forget about a week, 2 or so. But unfortunately, we are in this situation right now. And the only person that can be able to give us correct answers is the Department of Education. And in this instance, we do not need answers as such. We need our money so that we will continue performing our duties, because we are not failing to perform our duties if we have been paid.
Okay, but
So-
have you or anybody else from your organization actually spoken to the Department of Education and found out exactly what the story is?
Personally, I'm drained, I'm tired, I'm defeated, I'm exhausted. I'm no longer in a state to be able to speak something constructive, because whenever we are engaging, it's not like we are doing it in a correct manner. They will always tell us something that is not going to materialize. And in this manner, right now, the only thing that we need is our monies, So if there are any technicalities with the system, it should have been dealt with immediately just to avoid this.
But you see, I'm just trying to understand this, because clearly I think parents will be on your side. Everybody wants to make sure that these learners get fed, because it's that important, right? Now I understand that you're saying you're exhausted, you may be in a bad state, but somebody from your organization then has to take up the cudgels and ensure that the issue is addressed urgently. So who's going to do that then?
Unfortunately, I will have to do that, but I have anyway. We have released a statement earlier this morning, I think early around 6 o'clock in the morning. And like I've said, that I've seen that they've released their statement as well, but I haven't been able to go through the statement and read what is written. But I saw that they are stating the system technicalities, the glitches with the system. So that is not new. But last month, if you remember correctly, we were told that the system was upgraded. And how is the system that was upgraded last month? It's having issues now. But on the 15th, when it comes to their payday, it did not have any issues or glitches, So this thing, it's tiring because somewhere, somehow, the honesty is no longer there,
Okay, so when I asked you the first time, I said, what's the reason? So what is the official reason that the monies have not been paid? Because if it's one or two companies, you can say maybe they haven't submitted the invoices, maybe they made an error. I mean, these things happen, right? But you can't have 90% plus not getting paid without having an actual reason. So have they actually told you anything officially to say this is the reason?
Besides the fact that they had systematical issues, no, there are no other reasons that have been given to us. Besides the fact that it was the system's fault.
Okay, what do you do next?
We are still going to engage. We have a meeting at 1800 hours with EXCO. Then we will come up with an amicable solution.
Okay, let's leave it at that, and let's hope that amicable solution will actually happen. Lindani Matiwane, the National School Nutrition Program for KZN's chairperson. It's so confusing. There's some glitch in the system, and therefore all these service providers are not getting paid. As a result of that, they can't provide the service. And what is the service they provide? Nutrition at schools, foods for these many, many learners that depend on that for that one meal a day. Well, they're not getting that. And as it stands on Monday, that's not going to be the case. And he's saying it's about 90% of the service providers. What a story. Does anybody know more? Because he himself is unclear as to what actually the situation is. I can't understand. Perhaps somebody from the Department of Education listening in, I would think basic education, in fact, listening in, say, hey, come on, I've got the story. This is actually what the story is. And this is how we're going to fix it. Or is it just going to be ignored? Right, so we should finally, next up, be chatting to the American pastor, Mark Burns, who's in South Africa. We'll talk to him next.
Lina Lakake Tlompokekana, I'm from Mamelodi Sundowns captain. I'm a sports analyst la go SABC Sport. When I'm home, I try by all means to practice cooking. My favorite home cooked meal, I'll go for pap and masonja because I can prepare that with easy. What do I normally get up to when I get a moment to myself? I would easily, play my guitar. I try to practice a lot of Tracy Chapman. My favorite foreign language is French. Bonjour. So if I didn't play beautiful football, I think I was gonna be a baseball player. What do I like about SABC Sport is the fact that we given an opportunity to educate.
Catch the exciting Diski analysis by Hlompo Long Range Kekana on match days live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. Copper Queens and the Zebras want to test each other's strength. This is not just an international friendly, they are gearing up for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Witness the thrilling battle between Zambia and Botswana on Saturday 31 May at 3 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the
game. The Morning Brief.
Just give us the facts of what the situation is at the moment in terms of the violence and the resultant number of people that have died and those that have been injured.
As you are mentioning it clearly that there's an issue of locals and foreigners. It's a fight that started on Sunday. One of the locals were killed by foreigners. But currently, 4 dead and 9 is in critical situation in hospital. Plus minus 430 foreigners that are at the police station in Ado as we speak.
That's Soletu Lucas, who is the mayor of the Sunday River Valley local municipality.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So we have with us now Pastor Mark Burns. Now this is interesting. So this is what the bio says. And I'm going to ask you to say yes or no. It says, faith leader political power broker. I've never heard that before.
I haven't either.
And then the other one is trusted ally of President Donald Trump.
That is true.
So should I tick off all three? Right? Faith leader, political power broker, and trusted ally.
Well, I'm just happy to be Pastor Mark Burns, lover of Jesus Christ.
Okay, but are you a power broker, a political power broker?
I can't say I'm a power broker. I saw that for the first time today, and I've never. That's something we've never put out there. But I'm humbled and honored that someone would think that. But that's their opinion.
Okay. Now in South Africa, we use the word for a friend. Colloquially, we say chommy. You know, we chommies, right?
Okay.
And effectively, you would be like a trusted chommy of President Donald Trump. So are you that? I mean, I'm trying to establish how close you are.
Yes. Well, again, I've been with the president since before he started to run. I mean, he has a video out there telling the world that I've been with him since the very beginning. Actually, before he came down as what we call the famous golden escalators when he declared that he was going to run for the Republican nomination back in 2015.
So you played a role. So what role did you play in the build-up? Because I understand you did a lot of lobbying, if I can, publicly and privately, right, to get him elected as president.
Well, I mean, again, I was one of the very small, I'm going to consider myself a very small cogwheel in a massive machine. There was a lot of people that fought hard back in 2015. But yes, I'm one of the original, as what we would say, original gangsters, one of the OGs of the Trump political world back in 2015. Again, when he was just one of the many candidates that was vying for the Republican nomination. And so being a black man and a Republican is something that is like oil and water in a lot of circles in America. So I was something that's not the norm. But again, I always stand for what is right and not necessarily for what is popular. And so I've been with him from day one, day zero, actually, and still here today.
Okay. And did you support and back and rally support for him in his second term?
Well, yeah,
because
of course.
He lost the next election, and then won the third one, right?
Yes.
Effectively.
Yes. Always been there, never left. Always been there, never left.
Now, a lot has happened between South Africa and the USA over the period. I'm going to pick your brain on that. But I mean, I'll start with this. At this point in time, when American President Donald Trump is saying there are bad things happening in South Africa, then it's fair to say that many South Africans don't see him as a friend. So if he's your friend, and if I say that he's not my friend, and when I said it, I probably reflect the pulse of the nation in saying that. What do you tell us?
Well, I mean, listen, let me just say that I'm clearly here, and I've discovered, and we're talking about specifically what I would consider the elephant in the room. Is there white genocide happening in South Africa? And I have spoken to, as I've stated, many South African white Afrikaners leaders. Some are even part of the former apartheid leadership, and they're all stating that we're shocked. And was concerned that this was the narrative that was being played. They was thrown off guard. Even though, let's be clear, this is not something that just now come out of South Africa. This talk of white genocide and white farmers being killed, chained up and killed and limbs being cut off is something not new. And so I want to be clear, something that didn't start with the Trump administration.
Are you saying, according to your understanding, is there a genocide in this country?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, again, I'm hearing from, again, let me be clear, former apartheid leaders who are themselves are saying that there is no white genocide.
Okay. But it's interesting if you say, I mean, you said absolutely not. And the way you said it is exactly, you know how you say it strongly, like, did your team lose the game? It's like, absolutely not. We won the game. It's like, it's that obvious, right? So if it's absolutely not, what are you telling your friend then?
Well, of course, I'm telling the White House and the president that there's no white genocide. There are no farmers that are being killed. Now, is there a crime rate problem? Yes, there is.
And we all agree with that.
Yes. And again, that's why I think the meeting with President Ramaphosa and President Donald Trump was a good deal. Regardless of how we ended here, the good news that came out of that meeting is that it's bringing crime here in South Africa to the top of one of the agendas to the top. And so it's causing people to say, hey, yes, many of us do fear, regardless if we're black, if we're African, if we're colored, if we're white or Africana or Asian, we do feel that we don't have enough protection in some cases. And so the fact that you had 55,200 deaths in the last quarter, And out of those 5,200 murders, only 12 of them was related to farmers. And out of those 12, only 3 was related to white farmers. And so clearly there's not a disconnection.
So
we're all on the same page.
So that's the point. I want to pick your brain and other things too, but I want to just get this out of the way. So, you've stated a very good case that whoever's making the claim, a genocide is a deliberate targeting of a group of people. Inevitably a nation. One may say the Palestinian issue is a genocide, and it's been provisionally set already by the ICJ anyway, right? Deliberate targeting of a group or a nation of people.
300 years of apartheid.
So why then? How, in your understanding, in your wisdom, how does your friend Donald Trump come up with the fact that there's a genocide in South Africa?
Well, it came from your 49 white South Afrikaners that showed up, and that they, again, for years, let's be clear, this ain't something that just happened. For years, under Biden, under Trump the first time, under Obama, there's been for years this notion that there is white genocide. Ever since
But I'm saying, listen, people can talk and badmouth. I know people in America, in the USA, who are miserable living in that country.
I agree.
And if they could, they'd love to move to this country. Do I then say America is a miserable country, or their experience is miserable? So the point is, yes, there are people, white, black, whoever, who are not living a good life in South Africa, as in the USA. But my point is, how does a nation, with the biggest influence in the world, be so offside when it comes to coming to intelligence to say, are we going to rely on 49 people to determine what we're going to pronounce on an entire country?
Well, I don't think that they're speaking about the entire country. I think they were speaking specifically about those 49 individuals who they've declared that they have been running for their lives. And that's really the real question. The real question need to be asked is, how did the South African government not realize that these people have been saying these things about their government in their country, trying to get out, declaring a lie, which is there's white genocide that's happening. Let's talk about that. Before it even gets to President Trump, before there's ever a video of Julius Malema saying kill the Boer, before there's ever any video of other leaders, black leaders in your country declaring we shall take their land. We are South Africans. We are South Africans. We take their land. That's what we do. So you got to ask that question first before you start talking about how it got to America. So let's first deal with the speck in your own eye before you try to deal with the block in my own eye.
Let me ask you this much.
You're right. To answer your question, there is no land being stolen.
We all know what Julius Malema has said, but he's part of a party that's got about approximately 10% of the vote, right? There's a sense that they've plateaued, but that's another conversation. It's not about him here.
Well, let me just say this much.
Why wouldn't Trump not check up with the president of the country to say, Mr. President, can you give me facts and figures about allegations of an actual attack against a complete group, a nation, not 49 individuals, a nation of people within a nation who are called the Afrikaners? Why would he not have done that?
Well, again, I think the real question should be, again, why weren't they put in check before they ever got to the United States of America? That's a whole other question how that even happened. You keep talking about the after effects. I'm talking about how it happened in the very beginning. All right. Clearly, there is no white genocide here in South Africa. And to my understanding, there's been no stolen of land here in South Africa. There's no targeting of land. But now I have also spoken to other white South Africans who have a difference of opinion. So, again, I think we need to be asking ourselves, how did it even leave South Africa? How did that lie get perpetuated, not just under Donald Trump's administration? Because I understand what media is trying to do. You're trying to paint it out as though Donald Trump is specifically some white racist who is just looking out for white people and black people are inferior, and that's bogus, it's bullcrap. I'm a strong black man from Belton, South Carolina. There's a reason he calls me his pit bull. And you think I give a rat's crap about the fake notion that Donald Trump is some racist? That's bullcrap. It is not. Now, the reality is your government should have stopped those people from ever getting out of this country, spilling lies about your country, about your president, about your government, talking about your people are killing white people. That's the reality.
Right. You made your point. I'll leave it to the audience to decide on that one. Just a quick one. You're going to tell Donald Trump when you go back home. You've already WhatsApped.
Well, I've already communicated. Listen, let me just get back.
And he said what?
That there's beautiful people here in South Africa. There is a beautiful nation. Let me tell you what has happened.
No, but if you're saying there's no genocide,
yes,
we're not talking about whether. The place is magnificent.
Yes,
scenery.
absolutely.
We're not even discussing that, right? We're saying if you go to
well,
Donald
I've already
Trump and
answered that question to you, sir, and I've asked that question multiple times.
Genocide,
there's no genocide.
Have they come back to you and said
why the 49 people said there was genocide?
Well, ask them why they say so.
You ask them. They're South Africans. They're your responsibility, sir. They're not my responsibility. President Trump is the president of the United States of America. He's not the president of South Africa. You have a wonderful president. His name is President Ramaphosa. His job is to lead the people here.
Get to news. I want to ask you about BRICS. You've got some views on South Africa and the BRICS itself, right? More from Pastor Mark Burns right after this. Let's get to the news with news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Higher Education Minister Nobuhle Ngabane has defended her decision to withdraw the appointment of board members of the Sector Education and Training Authority. A former councillor in the Okahlamba municipality at Bergville in KwaZulu-Natal has been sentenced to life imprisonment after the Ladysmith Regional Court found him guilty of murdering his fiancée and their 3 children. And a former councillor in the Okahlamba municipality has been sentenced to life imprisonment. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hoos.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria queuing towards the N4 highway, the N1 southbound in Four Ways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive, and the N3 northbound has a fault fire reported with smoke affecting visibility before Buccleuch interchange. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle before the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The R103 Old Main Road in Hillcrest is where crash is reported at Boertis Hill, and the M4 northbound has roadworks with traffic restrictions near the M7 highway. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound queuing towards Airport Runway area. The R300 southbound is slow moving towards Stock Road exit, and Voortrekker Road in Goodwood slow moving at the N7 Jakes Gerwel Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Okay, Chumi, you still want to speak of the same theme of just now, right?
Yeah, we're talking all things Proteas.
And you're wearing that top. Got it.
I am. Proteas batter Adam Markram says that the team is backing themselves for a strong performance in the ICC Test Championship final, but they're careful not to get ahead of themselves. Now, South Africa faces a daunting task against a more experienced Australian side when the match gets underway on the 11th of June at Lord's in London. Now, the Proteas 15-man squad has a combined 367 test matches under their belt and less than half of Australia's tally of 772. However, Markram remains optimistic, saying anything is possible.
Yeah, we always have the belief we can. I think it's a thing as a South African to be incredibly humble though, so it never feels it's getting to the stage of overconfidence. Sometimes you actually want to get to that stage. It brings out the best in sportsmen, but it's not in our nature, South Africans. But to see an event like this and the amount of confidence and belief people have in us, that definitely feeds us with that confidence and belief as well. So definitely enough to do it. I don't think anyone gave us a chance when this new test team sort of started forming a few months back to get into the final. I don't think anyone's given or gave us a chance at the time, and for us now to be in the final, hopefully we've proved some people wrong, but also proved to ourselves that we are deserving to have a seat at that table and to have a chance at winning.
Meanwhile, Punjab Kings skipper Shreyas Iyer says that it's back to the drawing board after their big loss to Royal Challengers Bengaluru in the first IPL qualifier. Now, league toppers Punjab will get another crack at reaching the 3rd June final, but they will have to perform an awful lot better when they did, as they did not go well, going down by 8 wickets to Bengaluru after being bowled out for 101 yesterday. The Punjab batting fell like a pack of cards in 14.1 overs on a seamer-friendly pitch where Bengaluru's bowlers, including Josh Hazlewood, wreaked havoc. In rugby, Stormers loose forward Marcel Tainer says that they are keeping their focus
on what they can control rather than being distracted by Glasgow Warriors' recent form. This comes ahead of a tough United Rugby Championship quarter-final clash at Scotstoun Stadium tonight. The DHL Stormers know the size of the challenge that awaits them as Warriors head into the knockout fixture off the back of a heavy defeat to Benetton, followed by a stronger showing, albeit a loss against Leinster.
I think we haven't looked too much into that game. I think we've been just taking all the games throughout the season. We haven't actually focused just on the Glasgow and Leinster game. We took a few other games and throughout the season, and we focused on certain aspects of the game where we think we have opportunity. I think we're not too interested in the game. I think we're more interested in what we do, and we focus on ourselves and where we think our opportunities is.
Well, the clash gets underway around 20:35 in the evening. In football, Mamelodi Sundowns defender Divine Lunga says that their biggest task against Pyramids in the second leg of the CAF Champions League final is to find ways to break them down. There's a consensus inside the dressing room that the Egyptians were solid in defence and stifled the Downs attackers last weekend, but at the same time they were aggressive when going forward, and Lunga says that they work to counter this approach.
On our analysts, we knew that it's not going to be an easy game because they are aggressive. So I think we did manage to score, but I think there were some moments where we didn't do better. Well, the stubborn side, it was hard for us to score because we scored. Usually we normally score first half, but with them we scored on the second half.
Finally, in Olympic news, the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee is in a race against time to submit its official bid to host the 2036 Olympic Games. With just 2 weeks left before the International Olympic Committee's submission deadline, SASCOC is awaiting government approval before it can forward the application. This is amid stiff competition from other countries, including Egypt and India.
We are still waiting for cabinet approval. We are running out of time. But remember, I also said today, and even in my speeches, that this is the very, very first phase of showing an intent. There are many, many other phases that we go. Once we get that national approval for any year, be it 2040 even, then we'll move on it in earnest. Deadlines, I think it's about next week or week after next.
Right, that's it from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you do, I will find out exactly what your weekend plans are, working or non-working. Either way, it's all going to be about sport because that's so predictable of you anyway. Right, Chubi? Thank you.
We plan for vacations, retirement, and even tonight's dinner. But do we plan for our health? It's how we protect our family's future. So who are you staying healthy for? And how can you protect their future? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding life with health checks and extra rewards. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guardrisk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
EFC is live this Thursday. The indestructible champion Zakir Badat descends from the Wild Mountains to defend his welterweight title against Nigeria's electrifying kickboxing champion Segun Ogunaike. Plus, Timnan Lawuli takes on Sibusiso Suvendila, and undefeated Kevin Pretorius steps up to challenge Oswaldo Benedito. EFC 124 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
We all have an enemy.
Not me.
Oh, please. Trust me, you do. Some are vocal about it. I mean, they don't shy away from it. Open hatred. Well, at least they're honest about it. Then you get our Satan. Oh, they will hate you in the shadows. Consult the Magoya of Baloi. Maybe an Nkabi for you here and there. Trash your name until it can't even be recycled. Tune into My Secret Enemy and get a front row seat to some of the most spine-chilling stories in the Hall of Betrayal. My Secret Enemy, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, we've had a fascinating chat and we're going to continue doing that with Pastor Mark Burns coming up shortly. But in the meantime, let's get to the markets first with Paswane Mpatlele, who's the Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Paswane, last day of the week, give us the big stories locally and globally.
Well, Ashraf, afternoon and to all your listeners. Well, market activity is fading as we end the month of May. Globally, today we have seen a lot of weakness sentiment filtering through globally. And this is at the back of the fact that the U.S. Treasury percent has been echoing that the U.S. and China developments in terms of trade agreements is not as rosy. But Trump also added more problems by saying that China is actually violating the agreements. But this didn't shake off a lot of equity investors as the VIX is still below 20 and the losses were kept with more support from the fact that the US Fed favorite inflation gauge is in line with market expectation, up 0.1% on a month-on-month basis. Dollar is taking these developments to end the week with the higher lows, up 0.2%, which puts gold prices lower on a correlation basis, down 1% at $3,280 an ounce. Oil prices also eased down 0.9% at $62.70 a barrel. Equities are easing their big monthly gains. We see US is currently flat with only the Nasdaq even worse off, down 0.3. Europe is only the FTSE and the DAX up 0.7 and the JC is down 0.3, led by losses by resource sector down 0.9. Industrials down 0.2 along with financials. We look at a weaker rand. At the rand against the dollar is at 19.97. Rand against the euro is at 20.36. Rand against the pound 24.20. And we can just kick off. We lost with Bitcoin there. The volatility has eased, and you can buy one Bitcoin price at $105,600 an ounce. One Bitcoin.
Okay, got that, Paswane Mpatlele. I appreciate your time, and we will connect with you again. Well, next week, absolutely, of course, right? Okay, let's get back. By the way, Shakes Mashaba comes up after 5 o'clock. The former Bafana under 20, under 23, and the national team manager. He's done it all, isn't it? We're going to certainly enjoy talking to him as part of our Friday fireside chat.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
All right, so we do have, once again, Pastor Mark Burns with us, right? Before we get to that, there's responses from people. So we're going to play some of the responses from you because, the show is called The National Pulse. And you run the pulse, so we get a good feel of what your pulse tells you when you connect with us. So here they are.
Ashraf, I really hope you don't keep getting these bombastic right-wing American people who come on the radio and lecture you and me and everyone else on how we're supposed to run our country. If nothing is happening, if there is no genocide, why must we all run around to prove that something does not exist? He's just trying to cover for the fact that Trump is an absolute idiot who tried to ambush Ramaphosa. But I'm afraid his hectoring tone led me to switching off the radio.
Well, hope you switched on again.
Good evening, Ashraf. Mtobozi is here. Sorry, I'm driving. But I just want to say to this John Burns guy that is talking a whole lot of bullcrap. He's another Michael Langley, who's spreading propaganda, making USA as the savior of the world. We are tired. The last person they did that to was Gaddafi. No more. Hands off Africa.
Ashraf, good afternoon. For the first time, I'm listening to SAFM on YouTube. Wow, what a nice view. You guys are doing marvelous even on such platforms. I'm even watching this pastor from America. Well, we welcome the servant of God. I'm a Christian myself, but the way he speaks about South Africa, that this thing of genocide, it's been there since the days of Obama. I don't believe that, So, and then for the fact that he's advocating for Trump's belief rather than hearing the truth, I think he's going through some self-hate, black self-hate of some sort. Thanks, Langa in Maritzburg.
All right, thanks for that, Langa. And the other calls, and those who have switched off, please switch on again. We certainly need you here and to connect with us here live on the National Pulse. So, yes, we're chatting to Pastor Mark Burns. I asked him whether, because one of the descriptions is a political power broker. He said first time he's heard of that one. But faith leader, yes, he's very much a Christian, as he made the point up front. And then he's this trusted ally of the American President Donald Trump. Right, let's move on to other things then. So why are you in South Africa? What are you doing here?
Well, I was invited by the Concordia Forum. Dr. Ahmed, who is the founder and chair of an organization that's designed for interfaith dialogue with Muslim communities, Jewish communities. And so I have had the privilege of speaking at one of their forums in Washington, D.C. I'm here in the studio with Dr. Joseph and my team. And so they go around the world promoting peace and prosperity amongst interfaiths. And I've had the privilege of visiting several of your mosques here in South Africa and also in Eswatini. Had the privilege of visiting the beautiful kingdom there. And so this was a message about just more peace and unity, bringing people together. I'm very confused by some of the comments that was brought in. I mean, I'm not trying to tell South Africa how to run South Africa, just like I think I was simply responding to the fact that you were talking about President Trump and how did it even happen? How did these people even get in? Did he not vet, et cetera, et cetera? And my point was, well, how did he even leave South Africa? Should have never left South Africa. If this is something, as the gentleman just stated, that this has been going on since Obama, then South Africa would have known that these people were passing out lies. Now, again, I'm getting comments too, as you all are, and there are people who are screaming from the mountaintop and saying that is absolutely not true. There is white people being killed, but of course, I think there's murders that's happening. It is happening. It happens all over the world. United States of America, we have murder rates. Some cities that have a lot higher murder rates than others. So there is always crime and there's violence. But again, I don't believe that there is an actual targeting of white people here in this country. And so that's the message that we want to pass around the world.
And that's a point you've made. So let's move on. In terms of the interfaith that you talk about, right? So interfaith amongst, multi-religions coming together.
Yes.
What role does it actually have to play in the world today, in a world where there's not a day that goes by without some issue or the other, and I'm talking about on a mega scale, and it seems like the leaders of the world are powerless to stop the problems and the suffering of the world?
Well, again, when you look at conflicts that are happening right now in Palestine and Israel, that's a prime example where faith and interfaith communication with each other comes into play. I mean, in America, we heavily, with the Christian right, support Israel. But then there are those of the Muslim faith, the Islamic faith, clearly support the Palestinian movement. And so for me, people like me, I have the blessed opportunity to speak to those of different faiths, to find where we're common amongst each other, where we can stand together, not so much where we're fighting against each other. And these type of battles, when you see a Muslim brother, you don't see a Palestinian or an Arab, you see a man, a woman, you see a human being. And so the more we talk to each other, the more we realize that we're the same and not the difference. And that helps those who are in power. That helps us communicate that message to our brothers and sisters to do the same thing.
I was going to come to this. I mean, let's just, because I want to get your thoughts on Ukraine too, because you have an opinion on that. So what are your thoughts about where we are regarding Palestine and Israel?
Well, again, I was for such a long time to focus heavily on supporting the Israeli community, and I still do. I focus on peace. But also realize that the Palestinian community also have an opportunity to, and they should have an opportunity to live. And I think wrong is wrong, right is right. And so I had to have my heart changed. And that heart changed because I had interfaith dialogue using through the Concordia Forum and other institutions like that who are willing to bring in strong, vocal Christian right people like myself to have dialogue with imams and with Jewish brothers and sisters. Hence, that's how I even got to Ukraine.
Now, I hear you. Now, I mean, you're president, and you made the point about conservative America, the American right, very on-side regarding supportive of Israel, not so much even in terms of solutions, but actual tacit support of that country, right? So how are you able to influence key decision makers, starting from Donald Trump, to change their mind? Because I don't think anybody says it's uncomplicated. It's a complicated region. But when certain countries effectively give a blank check to another country, say, do as you please, we will support you, then you clearly have a genocide.
Well, I think that the fact that President Trump put a stop or used his influence to put a stop to Israeli forces, air forces, who were on the runway ready to go and bomb Iran, I think that speaks volume about who President Trump is. The fact that he just unleashed sanctions.
Let me just put you on pause there for just a sec. I'll come back to that. Not because you said Iran or Iran. We'll get back to you in a moment.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
The rivalry between continental reigning champions Banyana Banyana and the Copper Queens will reach its maximum heat as they intensify their WAFCON preparations. The clock is on a downhill towards their journey to Morocco. This is the international friendly. Catch the incredible clash between South Africa and Zambia on Tuesday, 3 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC2, and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
After school snacks, a bag of chips or maybe some biscuits, instant noodles for lunch. Ultra-processed products such as these may be high in sugar, salt, or saturated fat. Having too much of these products could lead to diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Our health is in danger. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels now. Sign the petition on heala.org. HEALA.org.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
And you certainly are. Pastor Mark Burns with me, faith leader, ally of President Donald Trump, played a key role in him on garnering support for him in that very, very first election, and still very much a big friend and supporter of his anyway, right? Right. Let's get to, so you were talking about Iran. You said he was able to stop the attack on the Iranians.
Yes, absolutely.
Donald Trump.
I mean, the goal of it is to he just opened up Syria. He just removed the sanctions that was on Syria. So he clearly wants to do business with people that want to do business with the United States of America. The president is a businessman. His goal is peace and prosperity for all nations. That includes South Africa. That includes, we want to not destabilize, but to denuclearize some of these nations and do business.
Interesting you say he's a businessman. Isn't that one of the arguments? I'm not saying it's good or bad to say his by his very nature he's transactional. That everything has to transact in assets and liabilities, and he makes a decision on that basis.
Well, I think that's a good thing in a sense when you have leaders who know how to create jobs. When you have leaders who've been servants their whole entire lives and not have really created jobs, and that's the ultimate goal. Right now, your unemployment rate here in South Africa is really, really high. Hence, why some of the murders are taking place. Mm-hmm. And I know President Ramaphosa is in his administration. The ANC is doing a wonderful job in attacking that. They are bringing these things to the forefront, and that they want to create more jobs.
Well, we don't think he's doing enough. Well, and I can tell you my opinion. Well, I think the audience will tell you that we don't think he's doing enough.
I'll leave that to you to decide.
No, it's the numbers suggest that it's very clear.
Okay. But for me, I could say hence why BRICS is important to me. This is why BRICS is important to the president. Anyone, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa is included in that. The president has taken a hard stance on any people that's with BRICS that is designed to kill the almighty dollar, as President Trump said.
So tell me about
kill the almighty dollar is no good.
So wait, so there's no confirmation. There's been talk, there's been speculation that one of the aims of BRICS is to create this new BRICS currency. It's never been officially put on the table, unless I've heard it wrong. But your president clearly, when that came up, is like opposed it. So why is it so bad if other countries can do what they want? I mean, where does sovereignty start and stop?
Well, I think it starts with, again, economic empowerment for everyone. The U.S. dollar has been the standard. It is what flows and how we're able to do market. Now, if BRICS is going to focus primarily on it being doing business or having access to those markets, 100%, absolutely, go have at it. But if it's talks about, and Putin has done that, China has done that with the attempt to attack the economics of the United States American dollar, then that's a problem. And that's the message that's been echoed. My message would be, again, I don't represent the United States government officially, so I'm not speaking for President Trump, and I'm not speaking for the U.S. government's official position, but I do know President Trump, and I also know what he said to me personally about BRICS. And I know that part of that is he does not like BRICS. He's strongly against it. My prayer is that these individuals will take a hard stance in communicating the desire not to have a different currency to challenge the United States doctrine.
It's growing, right, from 5 countries to more. Why does he not like it?
Well, to my understanding, and this is coming from many of your Africana business leaders here in South Africa, that it has no teeth. Yes, it is growing, but they want it to stop. They themselves do not want to be a part of BRICS if it's talking about opposing the U.S. dollar. Do they want to do business in those markets in India, in Brazil? Absolutely. Do they want to do business in Russia and in China? Fine. Do they want to have access to those markets? Yes. But do they want to be a part of an organization that's solely designed or that's becoming more of a political movement and not an economical movement that's designed to bring jobs and investments to each other's countries?
If they
don't want to be a part of that.
If they have no teeth, BRICS, then the BRICS can't bite. And if they can't bite, then why are you worried about them?
Because it's an ideal. It's an ideal. It's an ideal that can grow.
Why can't everybody have their own ideal?
You kill an acorn before it becomes an oak tree. Because if you don't deal with it now, it will eventually become something that you can't control.
But MAGA, what you support, Make America Great Again, is an ideal.
And it's become a movement. And it became a movement.
And by its nature,
and it became a movement.
Collaborative, but at the same time, it also means putting America as the preeminent power in the world. So some may say we object on that. Would you stop because of that? No.
Well, you're a sovereign nation that can do what you want to do, but so can we. So can the United States of America. We could decide to pose a 31% tariff on South Africa. It's our decision to do that. We can say to you, if you want to do business with us and have access to our markets, then therefore the reality of it is there's a $5.55 billion trade deficit between our two nations. You imported about $1.5 billion of trades to us. We bought from you all about $7.5 billion. So the point of it is, if South Africa wants access to our markets, then that's fine. But they can choose to do what they want. It's their own country, your own sovereign nation. But if you don't want to be backed by the U.S. dollar, that's your choice. But then we also have the choice to decide who we want to do business with.
If I hear you correctly, were you quoted as saying that you'd suggest that South Africa quits BRICS?
What I'm suggesting is, as long as it's the notion of it is not so much of a political movement to decide to formulate a way to oppose the U.S. dollar, right, to create a separate currency so that they don't need the U.S. dollar, that's a problem. If it's about markets, access to doing special trade deals amongst each other, 100%, that's their right to do so. But if you're attacking the U.S. dollar, you're declaring war on the United States economically. That's a problem.
We've got just under a minute. Quick pronunciation on Ukraine, Russia.
Yes.
You've been through there. You've been critical of Russia, I understand, and that may surprise many other people. What's your thoughts? Ukraine, Russia, solutions?
Well, I mean, again, I was opposing supporting Ukraine, like many of the Republican right, for such a long time. I had to admit I was wrong because when I went to Ukraine and I saw the devastation, when I saw the corruption that was happening, when I'm hearing about the 700 churches and mosques and synagogues that have been bombed intentionally by the Russians, when I'm hearing about the 20,000 children that's been kidnapped, when I hear about the white bandanas that non-civilians were told to tie around their arms to signify that they're non-combatants, so that the Russian soldiers, when they invaded, don't kill them, but instead the Russian soldiers took those same white bandanas, used them to tie the hands up of those citizens and shooting them in the back of the head. Those are war crimes, my friend.
Okay,
and so when I saw that devastation, it broke my heart. My heart began to change.
Two things, and we've got like 30 seconds to answer this. One, you have influence, right? What if you could change one thing in the world right now? What would you change?
Well, I would change the fact that how we don't communicate with each other with the respect for each other. I'll give you a quick analogy. For me, I pray that everybody that's listening to this broadcast will look beyond our colors, look beyond our religious differences, look beyond the things that divide us, and really begin to focus on the things that unite us. If you see a baby on the side of the road that's crying and baby's screaming and it's raining outside and there's nobody around and you're walking towards that baby, the closer you get to that baby, you see that baby has a swastika on his arm. Will you stop and walk past that baby, or will you stop and pick that baby up and love on
That's the
him?
big challenge. Here's the last thing. I just want one word. That White House meeting, Trump and Ramaphosa, one word to describe it.
Informational and very impactful, because three major things has happened because of it. And I mean, again, whether you agree or disagree,
quickly, yeah.
Three things has happened. Number one, South Africa has now become stronger than ever. Blacks and whites, colors, Hispanics, Asians, they've all come together. That's powerful. Number two, the fact that now crime rate is a topic of discussion. No, there's no white genocide, but people are dying, and somebody's got to do something about it. And number three, just revisiting the B bill that you have, the Black Empowerment Endowment.
In fact, I must just tell, just for you know, all three things have been raised by political leaders across the spectrum and callers for years,
yes,
including from some of the leading trade unions, just so that you know that. But that's the show. Much to appreciate you connecting with us, Pastor.
And I don't think that that's not the case. I don't think that we did that. I think the fact that it's brought back to everyone's a mention now, that's a good thing.
All right, we need to leave it at that because it's time for the news, and we certainly get there. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Minister defends CETA decision and a warning over famine in Gaza. Good day to you. The Higher Education and Training Minister, Nabuklen Kabanes, defended her decision to withdraw the appointments of board members of the Sector Education and Training Authority. She was grilled by members of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training about the reasons for withdrawing the appointments. Some concerns were related to the son of the Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, Gwedi Mantashe. Buyambo is his name. Minister Kabane says the initial appointments were done according to the law.
Equality, where everyone is equal before the law and has the right to equal protection and benefit to the law. Freedom of association, where everyone has the right to freedom of association, as well as political rights, where every citizen is free to make political choices. Against that background, honorable members, it's very important to indicate that we indeed complied with this legislative imperative in our efforts to make sure that we are indeed compliant with the law when we're processing these appointments.
Meanwhile, Minister Gwede Mantashe says children born to political activists must never be treated like foreign nationals in their country of birth. This comes after the cancellation of his son's appointment as a board chairperson of one of the sector education and training authorities.
Buyambo is having 2 master's degrees and many other qualifications. And the young chap was making a big noise. They said, drop out of the UCT. I take an exception on that. And the second thing is that children born by political activists must never be treated as foreign nationals in their country. They must add value, they must contribute, and when we give birth to them and we send them to school, we are preparing them for contribution in society.
A former councillor at Bergville in KwaZulu-Natal has been sentenced to life imprisonment after the Ladysmith Regional Court found him guilty of murdering his fiancée and their 3 children. He was a DA councillor when there was a fire at his home in 2023. The blaze claimed the lives of his fiancée and their children. The court heard that the councillor had threatened to burn his partner to death 2 weeks earlier. The NPA's Natasha Ramkasoon-Kara.
Buthelezi was sentenced to a term of life imprisonment for each of the 4 counts of murder, 5 years imprisonment for the arson, and 5 years imprisonment for each of the 2 counts of defeating. He will serve an effective term of life imprisonment, and he was declared unfit to possess a firearm.
A man has been arrested for the alleged murder of his partner in Mpumalanga. The suspect reportedly shot her following a heated argument. The incident allegedly occurred at a neighbour's house after she had fled to the house. Police say she's a professional nurse who died at the scene. Police say the suspect has been arrested for murder, possession of an unlicensed firearm and ammunition, and is expected to appear in court on Monday. The UN has warned that the entire population of Gaza is at risk of famine. UN humanitarian agency spokesperson, Jens Lager, says Gaza is on the verge of a catastrophe.
This limited number of truckloads that are coming in is a trickle. It is drip feeding food into an area on the verge of catastrophic hunger. It's not a flood. Gaza is the hungriest place on earth.
Top story, the Higher Education and Training Minister has defended her decision to withdraw the appointment of board members of the Sector Education and Training Authority. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg House.
In your sports, the Sawa Cricket SA backs Rabada as Proteas head to World Test Championship final. Cardoso and Costa celebrate third Betway Premiership Monthly Awards, and SASCOC left with 2 weeks for 2036 Olympic Games bid. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston is queuing towards Geldness interchange. The M1 southbound in Amonda has a crash near Xavier Street, and the N3 northbound a felt fire with smoke affecting visibility before Buccleuch interchange. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a crash at Prospection. The N3 eastbound has a stationary truck after Cliffdale, and the N3 both ways queuing on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the M5 northbound slow moving towards Kuburg interchange. The R300 southbound is queuing towards the N2 highway, and Main Road has heavy traffic reported in that central Wynberg area. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Welcome back to the sun-drenched shores of St. Marie, where the beaches are beautiful and the murders are mysterious. It's Death in Paradise Season 7. New cases, quirky suspects, and D.I. Jack Mooney, who's still figuring out the island and how to drink coconut water gracefully. Catch the show where paradise meets puzzling crime, because even in paradise, someone always has a secret. Death in Paradise Season 7, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 28 May. S3, open up.
The rivalry between continental reigning champions Banyana Banyana and the Copper Queens will reach its maximum heat as they intensify their WAFCON preparations. The clock is on a downhill towards their journey to Morocco. This is the international friendly. Catch the incredible clash between South Africa and Zambia on Tuesday, 3 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 2, and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you. As we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity, we bring you rich conversations and stories that shape the continent. Join us as we celebrate African pride, unity, and progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, that was some conversation with Pastor Mark Burns, the faith leader, ally of President Donald Trump. The claim is he's a political power broker. He says he's never heard of that before. But also the point that he's a pastor. He's part of he's a televangelist. I think it's called Now TV that he may have started up, one of the key members there. But also linked certainly to the drive for what is called MAGA, Make America Great Again, from that first election of Donald Trump as the U.S. president to now. But also said he supported Obama, by the way, which he didn't tell me on air. We didn't have the time to do that. We'll have a podcast of that coming up soon. I think Busani will make sure it gets tweeted out in the next 10 minutes or so. If I know him, we'll tweet it SAFM Koza, first of all, on the website, but also we'll tweet it out via SAFM Radio's Twitter feed. And so check it out. But I'll repost it as well, right? And there's many people have commented, of course, right, via WhatsApps and calls. We can't take them now, unfortunately, because as you know, on a Friday, we go for the Fireside Chat, where we speak to a person of prominence, not always South African, but mainly South African, who really has made waves in his or her career. And we talk to them about many, many things. And if I can tell you now, there's no question, if I just say Shakes Mashaba, then you don't even need me to tell you who he is, because he falls into the category of like everybody knows who he is. So anyway, we do have for the next 45, 50 minutes or so, as part of the Fireside Chat, Shakes Mashaba. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm very well, but I should ask you, how are you? Because you, I know, have not been well. I think it was in January or so. You spent some time in hospital. You were not well.
Yeah, no, I'm better. It's on and off, eh? It's on and off, but I'm managing to move here and there.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you're feeling better. Are you better enough to get into like active? I know, look, you retired from coaching, I think, a while back, but what's the degree of better in terms of what you can and can't do?
Say that again, Ashraf.
What's the degree of better? Like what can you and can't do? Because you're defined by football. You're football. I can't see you as a politician or a teacher, but a football coach. Yes, as a player with what is it, Pirates, Swaraj, all those years ago. But I see you as a football man.
Yeah, thank you. You're quite right. But anyone who wants to sign me, I can play better defense in any team now.
I think many people. So I mean, I saw you, and I saw you as a lighty. I supported Dynamos in the old federation, right? So you were playing for the enemy, for Swaraj, but even then you stood out as this defender, exactly as you said. So interesting, you said you can still play for them if somebody wants to sign you up. Maybe that's fine with you, right? What are you doing now with your life? I mean, what besides coming out of hospital and feeling much better? What's occupying your time?
No, thanks. Not much, but seldomly I would go with the young boys, age 10 to 12, on a just around the area. Yeah, do this and one day, do that day. But not something very serious, because I can't cope up really to stick there for a long time,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's understandable. But I mean, you've had an amazing career. You probably heard my intro that you're one of the few people I know that if I give a name of a person, we don't have to explain who it is. I mean, Nelson Mandela would be one of them, maybe Cyril Ramaphosa and I don't know, Patrice Motsepe, but you would fall into that category too. It's like, just say Shakes Mashaba. It's like everybody knows who you are.
Yeah, no, thanks. One has to work hard, really, to make it a point that as time goes on, people don't forget you, And if I bring people to light, I played football in amateur when I was still under 10. We had a team in our village that is in Orlando East. Where we played together with the late, great Stanley Shabalala.
Wow.
We had a team there that was called Orlando Preston Brothers. We played there, and then from there I was signed by Orlando Pirates. But what happened was, Ashraf, Swallows came and negotiate with me, and I said, I'll go train with you. They took time. So Pirates sent, there were those guys that we call henchmen. This guy comes to me, he says, listen, if you don't want trouble, get out of Swallows and go and sign at Pirates. And I say, yeah? He says, tomorrow we're coming to fetch you. Really at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, here comes the high AC. Remember, Pirates are still driving high AC at that time. Yeah, they pick me in, and as I was sitting, they already giving me training equipment, soccer boots and all that. I said, hey, man, are you serious? They said, no seriousness about it. You're already a player here. Definitely. So I went there. Then we started training. And as you know, that Pirates is a team of people, People started supporting the team and they supported me. But the good thing was, played 2-3 games, and from there I was made the captain at Orlando Pirates.
So when you went to Swallows, I mean, you said you played like a 10-year-old with Screamer Shabalala. When you went to Morocco Swallows first, how old were you then? When they told you, when the guy said, "Hey, you have to join Pirates tomorrow." How old were you then?
Yeah, I was somewhere about 18, 19, I think, Ashraf, if I'm not wrong, being subject to correction. But I was still too young. I was still too young when I went to Swallows. And unfortunately, they didn't grab the chance of signing me. They were dilly-dallying, we'll talk this, and the Pirates just came and snatched me, and that was all, eh?
Okay, so Pirates is where you started playing. That would be in the NPSL, if I've got that. If I got my history right.
Yeah.
Then at some stage you joined.
NPSL, NSL, yeah.
Yeah. Then you joined. How long did you stay at Pirates then? And then you joined Swaraj in the South African Soccer Federation. Why did you join Swaraj then? What happened?
Let me tell you. I stayed for a long time at Orlando Pirates before. Lucky Lehwati came in as a captain. I was still a long-serving captain at Orlando Pirates. And a lot of people don't know, Ashraf, I even coached the Pirates. I was an interim coach at some stages. When the league became, we started playing together, all the federation, the NFL, we came together. That was for Highlands Park and all this, and Swaraj and all that.
Yeah.
I was there. But as time went on, I just realized, no, it's too much now. I still want to play, but at Pirates, they didn't want me to play. Then I moved on to Swaraj. That was in the federation.
And then how long did you play there?
Pardon?
How long did you play there for?
I played for 2 seasons. And my first season, when we got there, we managed to win the league. And I did become an interim captain at some stages.
Okay. Well, you seem to be a leader wherever you go, right? But I mean, by and large, you are defined very much because, of course, when you played, that was a long time before we had the national team. There was no national team because it was apartheid South Africa, right? But you've done a lot of things, and I'll talk about the things you've done, Shakes Mashaba. But if you now reflect on your career, right, what for you do you think that, you sort of missed out on? Is there anything that you're like, oh man, I wish I could have done this?
Well, of course, there could be a couple of things that I've done that. And then, of course, what we didn't talk about, I played for Moroka Swallows as well. From Swaraj, I went to Moroka Swallows, or either vice versa. I played and I coached at Swallows as well. But what I was wishing for, really, it was to be one of the football administrators, And I thought if I had all my way, I would have formed the side as well to let it play in the current NSL league and going on.
So you mean you would have had your own side? Can you imagine that? I mean, we've had Kaiser Chiefs, and we've had Jomo Cosmos. I'm trying to think about whether it'll be Shakes. What would you give the team's name if you had to?
I would give it the name Shakes Mashaba's Army. Because we'll be attacking people all the time.
Shakes Mashaba. Well, there's nothing stopping you even doing it now, although you can't play for the team anymore.
Yeah, I think there's nothing that can stop me. Like I'm saying, if the energy comes and I start, more so I've got some grandkids, 2 of them, but they're interested in, what do you call this, netball. They're not so very much interested.
What do you tell them when they like a sport that is not your sport, like netball and not football?
What do you do? There's a lot of things that you need to guard against, because if you force them to do what they don't want, they'll try to cut your nose to spite you. They won't do their best, and as time goes on, they said, "Yeah, you took us there, and we're not interested." So let them choose whatever they want. Though to me, it's not a very good thing. I was looking at having people who will take over my size 12 soccer boots and play on.
Size 12, you were too big for your boots even then, even the big boots. Shakes Mashaba, we continue chatting to him as part of the Friday Fireside Chat. By the way, I mean, you can connect. Would love to hear from you. So maybe time for a couple of calls if you're up for it. And if you know Shakes personally, all the better. But if not, if you just admired him, that's fine. Go ahead and do just that. 086 000 2032 to call in live. And then you have the option to WhatsApp, that voice note, 30 seconds, or text 0614-104-107. And if you like what you're listening to as well, tweet it out too on use the hashtag The National Pulse. Tell your chommies that, hey, you're listening here to Shakes Mashaba, of all people, joining me up to 6 o'clock. Lots more to come here on The National Pulse.
Hey, Feel Good fam, we've got a new WhatsApp number. You know we love hearing from you, so save this: 063-036-9649. Send us your shout-outs, voice notes, or just check in like you always do. Same good vibes, just a fresh new line. That's 063-036-9649. Let's feel good together, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
After a 1-0 draw in their opening match in last year's edition of the regional competition, Bafana Bafana and the Mambas meet again in this year's tournament opener. This is the Hollywood Bets COSAFA Cup 2025. Catch the glittering action of Southern African football. South Africa versus Mozambique. This Wednesday, 4 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC+, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
A new client, a bulk discount, a chance to expand. Business opportunities don't wait, but with a Standard Bank Business Revolving Loan, neither do you. Get up to 10 million Rand in funding, access it anytime, and borrow again as you repay, giving your business the cash flow it needs when it needs it. Keep your business growing with a Standard Bank Business Revolving Loan. Visit standardbank.co.za/business loans to apply. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Wow, we certainly we're going to get to some of the calls just now. There's a comment as I continue chatting to Shakes Mashaba. So Shakes, here's one from MJ in Pretoria. Hi Ashraf, please ask Mashaba what Lucas Moripe did to him when he came back from China in Attridgeville. He's going to tell us a story. Go ahead.
Hey, that's a good one, hey, Ashraf. This man, he came back from...
Yeah, do we have you there? We may have just lost Shakes just for a second or so. Let me just tell you, as we just reconnect with him, I'll get Keys to do that. By the way, the podcast that we had of the conversation I had with the pastor, the American pastor, that's been put up already. So I did say it'll be up in about 15 minutes. Vusani said, no, I'll do it in 10 minutes. So Pastor Mark Burns, it's been tweeted out already as we've got it. And so you can find it on the SAFM Twitter feed. I've also reposted or retweeted it. And you can also check it up on the website, safm.coza. Right, let's get back then to Shakes Mashaba. So you were saying, Shakes?
Yeah, I was saying when he came back from abroad, he played somewhere in China. And then the fixture, his next fixture was against us, Orlando Pirates at Attridgeville, that is in Tshwane. You know, when they came in through the corridor of the dressing room, he was on the horseback. He came in, they dropped him right in the center of the field.
The horse.
Let me tell you something that you will never forget. You know, he started playing and he got this ball and he went round. Then I said to people, hey man, take that soccer ball. I went to him running. Guess what? I found myself crawling on the floor here, watching his starts running that way, the opposite direction. And I said to him, hey Munna, Kiabuya mo. And he was laughing at me, and it was fun. Half time, when we got to the dressing room, all my teammates at Orlando Pirates, they said, hey, Munna, what happened? Rather than us talking about the game. But it was an interesting match because we were welcoming him back from the country.
So it comes on the field on horseback and then gets you to sit on the floor. And it happened to someone who's got a 12 size 12 shoes, and it still happened. In fact, I've got a call. I want to pick it up from Mike in. We'll get to Mike in Middleburg just now, right? We'll do it in a moment or so. Let's talk about then your I mean, you coached what? The not Bafana, well, South Africa under 20, whatever they were called at that stage. Or was it Amaglon? Under 23 was Amaglon. So under 20 and under 23s and the national team, Bafana. I mean, what was your experience like with those three different teams?
That's one thing that the media is omitting. You know, I started with the junior ranks. I coached the under 12s.
Wow. Okay.
We qualified. We went to England for a World Cup there for the juniors. That's where I started coaching the national teams. Then I came back. I started off with the under 17s. And then, of course, Ashraf, I coached the girls as well, eh?
You did?
I coached Banyana. We went to the AFCON finals that we played in the Israel. And then we played against Nigeria. We beat them 1-0. And I didn't look back from there, and then I went on with the best team that I liked was the under 20. That was my best team. You wouldn't tell me anything about the under 20.
Tell us why. Why was that under 20 team so important to you?
You know, what makes one's life easy is when you work with people who are prepared to do what you expect them to do. The most important thing is discipline. The Benny McCarthy's, all of them, they played in the team. The Matthew Booth, all of them, they were under me, and I enjoyed working with them. You know, those are the players that I would respect. I remember one day we had a training session. I was carrying a bag of soccer balls just from one corner. Benny came running and says, "Coach, you can't do that when I'm around here." Can you imagine? He took the bag and he took it to the... Those are the kind of things that Matthew Booth, as big as he is, when he talks to you, you would see he goes down, he bends down and he listens to you. And we never had time to waste talking about disciplinary things. All the time what we were talking about, it was to building up the team. Fortunately, we all graduated to the under 23s. What a team as well, eh? You know, people will never believe that team beat the then Brazilian, all the best Brazilian team that has been winning World Cups and all that. We beat them out in a tournament in Sydney. That was in 2000 Olympics.
It wasn't just any tournament. It was the Sydney Olympic Games. I watched that game and I was thrilled at that. But I mean, do you think? But then, even though you won, and I mean, you had a fantastic team, you then didn't really advance to the next rounds. Like, do you think, on reflection, that a lot of your career as a coach and those very good teams were cases of what ifs, if only?
You know, it was just. I don't want to say unfortunate or something, but even today I'm still trying to find out how it came that we couldn't advance to the next level, because here we are, we're beating the team and that team went to the next level, but that didn't really took energy from us. We played on until we finished the tournament, but the only thing is we were happy that we've broken a record of beating a team from Brazil. Tell those people at that time, Ashraf, they were not easily beaten. Even if you beat them, you have to work hard. But we show them, you know, the way out of the soccer field with their heads bowed down.
Well, there you are. You certainly did something, and some really talented players playing for the national team at the time. That's the under 23 team. That's the Amagluglu team, of course, and a fabulous team. I think Ronaldinho may have played for that Brazilian team, if I'm not mistaken. But I sort of remembered one of the games, Quinton Fortune scoring a free kick, but maybe I got my memory all wrong. But anyway, Shakes will know all about that. Mike from Middelburg, we'll get you just now. I'll try and get you as soon as we'll talk to you just after we get the sport and business crossings. I certainly want to know what you have to say. You are the ultimate Peter Tosh. You would know exactly what I mean, right? 5:30, here's the news headlines with Greg Host.
In the headlines of this half hour, the Minister of Electricity has named a South African energy company as one of the preferred bidders in round 3 of the Battery Energy Storage Independent Power Producers Procurement Programme. The Higher Education Minister's defended her decision to withdraw the appointments of board members at the Sector Education and Training Authority. And residents of an apartment complex in Amanzimtoti, south of Durban, where the main suspect in Olarato Mongale's murder was killed, have expressed their shock following the shooting. More on that story and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview queuing on both routes towards Giluli's interchange. The N4 westbound in Pretoria has delays towards the N1 highway, and Olifantsfontein Road eastbound in Midrand has delays towards Lever Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck before Cliffdale. The M7 St John's Avenue is queuing through central Pinetown. In Cape Town, Strandfontein Road southbound in Pelican Park queuing towards Spine Road. Jan van Riebeeck Drive southbound in Parow is queuing towards Epping Avenue, and Military Road in Steenberg slow moving at the M5 Prince George Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Tumi still wearing her, not the Bafana top, not even the Amaglulu top, it's the Proteas cricket top. So what are we going to talk about now?
Well, Cricket South Africa's CEO Phuletsi Moseki has reaffirmed the Federation's full support behind Kagiso Rabada as the Proteas prepare to leave for the ICC Test Championship final against Australia at Lords. Rabada, who returns to the squad following a positive test or drug test, was part of a special farewell event hosted by CSA and sponsor Castle Lager this afternoon. And Moseki says that the fast bowler shouldn't be judged on one mistake and deserves the backing of the nation.
No, I think that was crucial and that was given for us. You know, he's our player, he's a very important player, but more than anything else, he's a very young man who's done a lot for the country. So just because of that misstep, it was very important that you can't throw a player to the wolves purely because of that. You know, and it is something that obviously has addressed, and he has basically spoken to the country, as you correctly highlighted. So support was basically non-negotiable, and we'll continue supporting whether KG or any of our players to ensure that basically we protect them from this environment. It's a very, very tough environment. You know, they're representing the country, so there's always a lot of pressure there. So the least that we can do as a federation is to ensure that they know that they've got the full support of everyone. You know, not just even in Cricket South Africa, but I think the country as a whole.
In rugby, Stormers chief John Dobson and speedster Sabelo Senatla believe something special is building within the team as they gear up for the URC quarterfinal clash against Glasgow Warriors. The Cape side, who won the inaugural title in 2022, are chasing a third straight appearance despite a tough season marked by key injuries. They face a confident Glasgow side at a venue the Stormers have never won and suffered playoff heartbreak last year. And assistant coach Ruto Hlungwane believes that they have been encouraging signs of improvement in recent weeks despite some tough results.
Look, I think in past 3-4 games we felt like, you know, we've played, you know, the way we want to play. We've sort of implemented like what we call the Stormers template, and we would really want to get better on that, and at the same time be ready for whatever Glasgow will bring to the table. But to answer your question, we want to improve that Stormers template that, you know, we presented so well against Benetton and the past couple of games against and Glasgow and Cardiff. Yeah, so we really want to improve that and make sure, because we feel if we do that really well, everything else will look after itself.
In football, Mamelodi Sundowns head coach Miguel Cardoso and star attacker Lucas Ribeiro Costa were named the Betway Premiership Coach and Player of the Month for the month of May. This marks the third time this season that both Cardoso and Costa have claimed the monthly honours, a testament to their consistency and a contribution to Sundowns' successful Betway Premiership season. Meanwhile, Sundowns are slightly on the back foot in the return leg of the CAF Champions League final away to Pyramids after the Egyptian outfit managed a crucial away goal last weekend. The Brazilian senior coach Steve Rompela reiterated that lessons have been learned and is hopeful that the Brazilians will travel to America as African champions.
It would be a great opportunity, and we pray that it happens. And we should benefit and leverage from the fact that we've had the experience here. We could see what happened. We can rectify some of the things we went through. We could have done better. And we have seen as well what they do and how we could overcome those. 1-1 is a good score for us, in as much as we shared the spoils. The expectation is that we would have loved to win the match. Everybody would have loved to go to Cairo 2-0, 3-0, but it is what it is now. So we just have to go to Egypt with the understanding that go there, score the 2 goals required and win the match, or score the goal required, don't concede, and then come back with a trophy. And hopefully it happens. It would be marvelous to go to the US, to the Club World Cup, being champions of Africa.
In motorsports, McLaren's Lando Norris headed Red Bull's Max Verstappen in the first practice at the Spanish Grand Prix. Norris was 0.367 seconds quicker than Verstappen as teams come to terms with new front wings forced upon them by a rule change for this race. Ferrari's Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were 3rd and 4th. In Olympics, South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee is in a race against time to submit its official bid to host the 2036 Olympic Games. With just 2 weeks left before the International Olympic Committee's submission deadline, SASCOC is awaiting government approval before it can forward the application. This is amid stiff competition from other countries, including Egypt and India.
We are still waiting for cabinet approval. We are running out of time. But remember, I also said today, and even in my speeches, that this is the very, very first phase of showing an intent. There are many, many other phases that we go. Once we get that national approval, for any year, be it 2040 even, then we'll move on it in earnest. Deadlines, I think it's about next week or week after next.
All right then. I think one thing I'm looking forward to is seeing how Mamelodi Sundowns is going to make sure that they win the CAF Champions League final. But that's it from my side for now.
Wait, before you go, so what's the weekend plan?
The weekend plan is actually watching the CAF Champions League final between Pyramids and Sundowns. It's on Sunday at 7 p.m.
Perfect time. I mean, it's last thing for the evening. But the European Champions League final, UEFA, is on Saturday night, right? 9 o'clock.
9, yeah.
What's it? Inter Milan, PSG. Yeah.
Yeah, PSG.
Anything else you're going to be doing?
I'll be watching sports.
That's it. Okay. Well, I'll be watching both those games. There's no cricket. Never mind what you.
Are you not emceeing this weekend?
Hey? I may play paddle. I mean, paddle's become mainstream when you have a SAFM workshop conference, and the conversation on both days is about paddle. It's like, oh my goodness, it's become mainstream.
Maybe one of these good days we might just challenge our listeners.
Well, there you are. Any listener playing paddle like me? You don't have to be good. You can be as bad as me, but you play paddle. Seriously. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, that's it.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. # your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
After a 1-0 draw in their opening match in last year's edition of the regional competition, Bafana Bafana and the Mambas meet again in this year's tournament opener. This is the Hollywood Bets COSAFA Cup 2025. Catch the glittering action of Southern African football. South Africa versus Mozambique. This Wednesday, 4 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC+, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That's Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, we'll get to Jimmy Moyah in just a moment or so. Let me remind you, we're chatting to Shakes Mashaba. He's part of our Friday Fireside Chat. And I'll check if I can play. We're going to get to Mike in just a moment. I'll see if I can connect with Mike in Middleburg. In fact, let me do that. Let's get to Mike in Middleburg. Hi, Mike. No, hold it. We'll get to Mike, sorry. We'll get to you in just a moment. I'm trying to find something about Shakes Mashaba here. There's nothing that I can pick up. There's a couple of people who want to talk about things just now, but we'll try and get to Jimmy in just a moment or so. Of course, Jimmy's been in Cape Town, and there's no SFM market update today, but maybe there's some misconnection as you get to Cape Town, which I can completely understand, right? Okay, let's say this much. What's the one thing you want to put to Shakes Mashaba that you'd absolutely want to know? You can actually call in and tell us, right? Hassan Lorga's making the point, and I see he messaged to say, hey man, our Bluebells fan, talk about Bluebells and Swaraj and that rivalry is like Pirates and Sundowns, Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, right? 0614 104 107 to WhatsApp, text or voice note, and then to call in live 086 000 2032. I think we do have now Jimmy Moyah connected. Jimmy, good to connect on a Friday afternoon.
Good afternoon to all the listeners. It's certainly not the Friday afternoon I thought it would be, not the Friday afternoon I'd hoped for. We're finishing out of the week and the day in not such positive territory on the Rand front. When I look at the Rand, it's back at 89 and 4 cents against the US dollar. Remember, at some point this week we were at 17 Rand 80, or 1775. Yeah, 1780-ish or so, around the time that we got that interest rate. So to be back above 18 Rand is not a pleasant thing. We're about 1.4% weaker at the moment on the Rand front. We're also weaker against the British pound and against the euro. If we look at the equity markets and how they performed throughout the day, they were largely in the red. Our own local markets didn't fare much better there. I think the sentiment at the moment from a market perspective is just trying to process the PCE data that came out yesterday, the personal consumption expenditure data that's out there. We've also got a softer oil prices as well, slightly below $65 a barrel, around the $64, $63 a barrel level. Platinum and palladium also kind of holding steady from where they were this time yesterday. Not much movement to the upside there. The gold price is back below $3,300 a fine ounce, so seemingly the market's trying to process a couple of things that have happened this week going into next week. Of course, the other thing about this week and this particular Friday is that it is the final trading day of May, which means next week we kick off a new month. And so there might be a bit of positioning or portfolio readjustments and rebalancing at the end of the month. So we're going to the next week with a slightly weaker rand, a slightly flatter or slightly negative top 40, but again, the top 40 did reach all-time highs again this week, so it's important to take those things into context and to look at that. But we're going to go into next week and into the new month, starting afresh and taking a look to see what is going to drive us into the month of June. For now, the rand's back above 18 Rand, and that's what we're going to the weekend knowing.
Right, perfect. You have a great fab weekend up. You've been in Cape Town, so we look forward to welcoming you back in Joburg on Monday. Anyway, Jimmy Moyah with the SFM market update, not today, of course, but every other day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And as we remind each other, you can listen to all the podcasts of what is done on that show as well. Right, I'll get to some of your calls in a moment.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay, let's get to, so once again, I almost was going to say Herman Mashaba, not Shakes Mashaba. Does that happen to you where people get mixed up with the names? Shakes Mashaba, Herman Mashaba?
Wherever I go, I don't know if this kind of questions do go towards Herman. Wherever I go, people say, Mr. Mashaba, come here. It's Mr. Herman Mashaba, your relative. Are you related to him? I said, no, nothing. And in our language, I said, no, it's Bongo Fanana. That means we're bearing same surnames, but we are not related. So that's what actually people will do. Come to me and ask, are you related? And I said, no. I would have loved to be related to an intelligent man like Helman. That would have made my life a little bit maybe better than what it is now.
Oh my God! Okay, got that. Right, let's get to some callers. I mean, from one politician, I think Mike in Middelburg is another politician of sorts. So something politicians are following you. Mike in Middelburg, hello. Mike, hi.
Shakes, and thank you. Ashraf, this is one of the best captains, we've ever had, both at Pirates and in South Africa. You'd captain Pirates and go and captain South African Black 11. Shakes, you were one of the best utility players. You were an all-rounder. Pirates was blessed with all-rounders. We had Shakes Intuseng, we had you. I think the two of you. But do you agree with me that Tiger Mdaung was the best number 6? And then when you and Tiger left Pirates for Swaraj, you actually disrupted the rhythm at Pirates. And my next question, of course, my parting shot. I know you want to take more calls, Ashraf. What was the secret, Shakes, behind your free kicks? I never saw you taking a free kick that never resulted into a goal. You were not like Jomo Sona. Jomo would go for goal, and Risco Sana had, this shot. But you would pick a player. When you took a free kick, you would pick a player, and it would result into a goal. What was your secret?
Ah, there we are. Just hold. Yeah, go ahead, Shakes.
Oh, thank you, man. I think it was not an easy thing. The people think they'll do a thing once off and it's finished. It needs practice. I mean, like you're talking about Jomo Sona, we used to call him a banana kick man. He would carry the ball right around the wall. With me, I would take a direct hard. Don't forget, I was putting on size 12 Ashraf. Can you imagine the type of a shot towards the goals? Goalkeepers will dive the wrong way, running away from the shot.
Running away from the shot. Okay, Mike in Middelburg, thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. Right. So interestingly enough, Shakes, we've had Hassan Lorgat, who calls in often on socio-economic activist issues, says like, hey man, I'm a Bluebells fan. Can you talk about the rivalry between Swaraj and Bluebells?
That was another thing. It was like Pirates and Swallows at that time. Bluebells and Swaraj. When that game takes place, the stadium will be fully packed. And the type of soccer that is being played there, you could see it's a derby. And people will enjoy it. They will come. Yes, after the game, we will always be friends and all that. We had players like the late Jerry Sadiq. He played for Bluebells, and we played. After that, we traveled back to Soweto together.
Really? So you and Jerry would go from Lenasia, I think that's where you played, and then went back to Soweto, or from different teams.
That was in Lenasia.
I think he then moved to Highlands Park, if I'm not mistaken. That's another story completely. What about, everybody talks about, captain and leadership. What's your take on what makes a good leader?
Number one, the most important thing, have an ear to listen to people. And then number two, respect everyone's opinion. And bring people to your level. Don't hold yourself like you are the biggest man. Go down to the people's level, listen to whatever they say, and when you respond to them, make it a point that they understand. There's no fighting, there's no shouting. And then, of course, you're captaining them in days of playing. You got to go show your best today. Show them how it's been done. You go all out, give up your best, and whatever they've done in the field of play, give them a pat on their backs, and that sums up the whole thing.
So is there a leader in South Africa, a soccer leader and a a non-football leader, like somebody in politics or business that you admire?
Well, a soccer leader, it's a different story as well, because you are exposed to everybody that you're dealing with. But if you are a politician, there's a lot of people that you got to deal with. And then, of course, you get different types of people, and you don't have enough time to deal with them and make them understand. Unlike in football, you stay with them in camps, you stay with them in practices, you stay with them. Some of them, you meet them at church. Can you believe that, Ashraf? At church, while the priest is preaching there, we're talking, hey, tomorrow we're playing. Are you ready? And those are the kind of things that are happening.
Right. What about if you had to tell the president now, if you had to give him one piece of advice, what would you tell him?
Well, that's difficult. That's difficult because when you look at our president, he's a very humble somebody. I've never seen him angry. He's always smiling, eh? So that alone rubs off to us as his followers. I think there isn't much that we can tell him. I think if you listen to him talking, you can hear that this man is ready. He knows what he's doing and what is expected from him.
Okay, we'll now ask you about other things too, which we'll get to you in a moment. With Shakes Mashaba, 10 minutes to go on the Fireside Chat.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
EFC is live this Thursday. The indestructible champion Zakir Badat descends from the Wild Mountains to defend his welterweight title against Nigeria's electrifying kickboxing champion Segun Ogunaiki. Plus, Timnan Lawuli takes on Sibusiso Suvendila, and undefeated Kevin Pretorius steps up to challenge Oswaldo Benedito. EFC 124 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The land is their legacy, but in season 3 of Yellowstone, that legacy is under fire. Kevin Costner returns as John Dutton, fighting to protect his ranch, his family, and everything that can't be bought. More enemies, deeper betrayal, and the battle for the West, it's only just begun. Yellowstone Season 3. This land was won with blood, and it'll take more to keep it. Saturdays at 9:30. Starts 24 May. Only on S3. Open up.
The Morning Brief.
So what is your message as SASSA to these 210,000 or so beneficiaries? Is it that if they're not paid in June, it's not a glitch, it's intentional on your part?
If those beneficiaries who are affected do not get paid, they must know that it's not permanent. All that we simply expect from them is to present themselves at the SASSA office and present their correct credentials. We have observed, Thulasizwe, that people, when they come and they are requested to present their credentials, they falsify the information. So we just want to engage with them so that if there's any wrongdoing, we can then be able to rectify it.
Paseka Letsatsi, spokesperson for the South African Social Security Agency.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, the last 5 minutes here on the Fireside Chat with the Shakes Mashaba. Shakes, as we wrap up, I mean, we always use this opportunity of asking the guests to give a shout out to a young South African. I mean, it could be anybody. It could be in football, but could be in business, politics, medical, that really impresses you. So is there someone like that you'd like to tell us about?
Let me start off by saying, before I get to that, when I was in the hospital, I was visited by the MEC, Gauteng, that is Ntateli Sufi Panyaza.
Yeah.
You know, he made my day that day. I didn't even feel the pain for the rest of the night. And then what? The president of the South African football as well came in, and we sat and we chatted there for a long time. And one other thing, I coached out of the country. I coached Swaziland.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, I coached them.
Yeah.
But on your question, I think if you look at now, we've got youngsters that are playing good football. Our under-20s have qualified for the World Cup. What is needed to be done? Let us not focus on football only. Let us try to invite people from education side to come and give lectures to these kids, because football is not a permanent thing. You might get injured now, or you might get anything. Let us make them understand what life is all about. You know,
absolutely.
Sure.
But is there a young person that really impresses you in any field?
I've got a couple of them. I've got a couple of them. Unfortunately, some of the names, old age. You know, I'm 75 now, Ashraf.
I thought you're 21, but anyway, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I've got youngsters that their names.
Okay, hopefully you remember some other time. Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll definitely do
like, do you read much? I mean, like, do you read books and things?
I do to try and keep myself all right. You know, like if you're sitting here, you find yourself sleeping. You know, if it was not a question of questions and talking now, you'll be talking to yourself. I'll be sleeping, fast asleep. But fortunately, we are talking. Yes, I do read some books, not too much, not too much. Maybe 2-3 pages, then I put aside. And then, of course, the games on our gadgets, you know, you play those games and then keep yourself busy, Ashraf.
Yeah. What sort of legacy would you like to leave? I mean, when you want people to remember you, Shakes Mashaba, what do you want people to think about you as?
Man, commitment in whatever I'm doing. I do it 101%. There's nothing that I do for the sake of doing. I want results out of that. And people remain happy. That's what I want them to remind me about, you know. They mustn't always say, oh, forget about that one. But I would like people to say, hey, that man, he brought us 1, 2, 3. That's how I want people to remember me.
Who's the most talented footballer you ever coached?
Pardon?
Who's the most talented footballer that you ever had the privilege to coach?
Well, there are a couple of them, but the most biggest players that I can talk about that I played with, like Jomo Sono, the late Patrick Esintswelengi. That is why up to now we still have to bring up players like those, you know, whereby people will always say when they talk, so-and-so is the best. You remember, Jomo Sono left his wedding the other day when the team was 2 goals down at Orlando Stadium.
He came back and he scored.
He took off the suit and he went on to the regalia of football and he scored 2 goals. Can you believe that? And then the team won. So we want people to remember us with such good things. And then, of course, like I said, we need to invite different types of people to give lectures to our youngsters.
I see Brass Shakes, Temba says, Brass Shakes, what can you tell us about Shuffle Makari, John Special Makubu and Jimmy Ben? But we don't have much time. You only got like 20 seconds to answer that. Can you just tell us anything about them very quickly? Yeah.
Okay, we had John Special Makubu as a heading specialist. We had Shaful Mukari and Shaful Mukupani, more or less the same. They'll always send you the wrong direction. They used to play the football with their heels. When you think he's shooting that way, he'll hit that other side. And like the one they were talking about, Tiger Motaung in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
If you have that guy, you know things are in good position.
Okay.
I would be happy one day when we've got time, we sit and we talk to our
Only
people.
about all of that, I agree with you. But I asked you this last thing. Let me ask you again. Not as a player, but as a coach. You've coached, right? Who's the best one player you've coached? The most talented player that you had with you being the coach? Quick answer on that one.
That one, obviously, it was Benedict McCarthy, eh?
McCarthy, yeah.
Benny McCarthy, and that is why he's going so big in terms of coaching. He was a very good, talented player. He would score goals like they're running out of fashion, eh?
I agree.
He was a very good player,
All right, listen, our time is up. One day we'll have the 2-hour chat about just players. You just name drop all players. But thank you for giving off your time and sharing it with us here on the National Pulse on this Friday fireside chat. It's a real privilege to talk to you, and you've always impressed us. You've always impressed me. I've always looked up to you and said, hey, that's a man who inspires, and he's got Vuma in him, if you get my point, right? So much appreciate you giving off your time. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that, Ashraf. Thank you. Bye.
Shakes Mashaba. What a wonderful conversation with a man who's really made his mark in football. Who doesn't know Shakes Mashaba? Let's get the news. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Minister announces bidders in battery energy program and scores killed in Nigeria.